The duel's unexpected turn. Let Yuang finish. If he were to freeze his face, it would obstruct his breathing. That could put Mo Fan's life at risk, Principal Zhu stated calmly, as though he had foreseen this outcome long before addressing Deng Kai. Relax. A fire element mage won't die that easily under a bit of snow, Mu Zhuiyun said smugly, stroking his beard with satisfaction. The surrounding guests, however, were struck silent, their expressions frozen in disbelief. Ha, look at them. Mu Zhuiyun reveled in the stunned silence. They never expected it. An 18-year-old mastering the third level of ice spread. Typically, students who reach the second level of a spell before graduating from Tianlan Magic High were already considered exceptional. Those who combined that with high scores on their practicals had a solid shot at entering prestigious magic universities. But the third level? That was another matter entirely. It could take years, perhaps even decades, for most mages to achieve such mastery. And yet Yuang, his adopted son, had already reached this milestone, surpassing not just the 1,500 students of Tianlan Magic High, but even many elite disciples from noble families. As for Mo Fan, that fool is simply overestimating himself. Mu Zhuiyun smirked. Soon, when he's lying on the ground, humiliated and defeated, I'll remind him of his place. That little brat dared to curse at me back then. Did he think I'd forget? Let's see how arrogant he is now. The Mu family continues to produce remarkable talent. Admirable, Brother Zhuiyun, you really kept this hidden well. If I had known your Yuang had already mastered the third level of ice spread, I wouldn't have let my son even consider competing with him. That poor student. What a pitiful sight, an elderly noblewoman sighed with a wry smile. With mastery over the third level of ice spread, Yuang now stands above all the younger generations of Bo City. A true prodigy, the weight of Yuang's achievement was undeniable. The sheer dominance of the third level ice spread left no room for doubt or contest. One by one, the guests began to shower Mu Zhuiyun with praise and congratulations, feeding his ego. This was precisely why he had orchestrated such a grand coming-of-age ceremony, to show all of Bo City the might of the Mu family's younger generation. Enough! Deng Kai, it's time, Principal Zhu said at last, his brows furrowed with concern. Deng Kai, why haven't you stopped it yet? Mo Fan doesn't have any defensive magic equipment. If this continues, his blood circulation will slow to a halt. That could have severe consequences. Deng Kai had indeed considered halting the duel earlier. The power disparity was obvious. However, his hesitation was interrupted by a sudden flare of heat cutting through the snowstorm. Deep within the blizzard, a crimson glow flickered to life. Old Zhu, I think we may have underestimated this Mo Fan, Deng Kai muttered, his eyes narrowing in scrutiny. Principal Zhu, caught off guard, turned to him. Just as he was about to speak, the boundless snow suddenly ignited, tongues of flame piercing through the cold like a defiant beacon. What is he doing? Was Mo Fan really trying to cast fire burst under such overwhelming conditions? Given the weight of the frost-suppressing fire element spells, the power of burning bones, the second level of fire burst would be significantly diminished. Even if it weren't, Yuang likely had defensive magic equipment. At best, Mo Fan's attack would be repelled. This kind of struggle, it's pointless. But then, something was wrong. Principal Zhu's expression shifted. He could sense it. The sheer concentration of fire element energy surging from Mo Fan's spell. It was far beyond what he had anticipated. This isn't burning bones. A tiny, searing hot flame tore through the blizzard. The snow, which should have suppressed its heat, failed entirely. Instead, the flame grew stronger, its intense glow standing out like a sun in a frozen world. The fire burst struck forward. Yuang sneered. With a thought, he reached into his spiritual world and activated his magic equipment. Ice Dust Shield. Instantly, frost coalesced into a thick, curved barrier of ice. This shield was more than enough to block a second-level fire burst. The crowd watched, many already sighing in disappointment or mocking Mo Fan's futile efforts. There's no point in resisting. But then, fire burst, rupture. Mo Fan's voice rang out, firm and commanding. A pinprick of scarlet red burned at the heart of the battlefield. Then, boom! The flame erupted with terrifying force. A monstrous explosion consumed the duel arena, washing over the battlefield in a raging inferno. The air crackled, shimmering from the heat. The blast shockwaves surged outward, sending vibrations rippling through the audience stands. The guests, who had been comfortably seated, were now leaning forward, eyes wide in shock. This isn't just fire burst, burning bones. It was fire burst rupture, the third level of fire burst. The crowd reeled. They had barely finished marveling at Yu Ang's mastery of ice spread when Mo Fan shattered all expectations. Even Su Dahuang, the captain of the City Hunter squad, looked as if his soul had been knocked out of his body. Fire burst. Rupture was my ultimate move, he thought in disbelief. He was nearly 30 years old, and it had taken him years of dedicated training to break through to this level. Yet, a mere high school student, one who hadn't even graduated, had achieved it. Principal Zhu and Deng Kai had sensed it from the start, but now, even they couldn't suppress their astonishment. A high school student reaching the third level of fire burst before graduation. How many years had it been since the last one? Mere moments ago, they had all resigned themselves to the fact that elite family disciples were inherently superior, their resources giving them an insurmountable edge. Yet here stood Mo Fan, a student from a magic high school, lacking the deep resources of noble families, proving them all wrong. Was this kid a freak? Had he truly reached this level through sheer talent and determination alone? Yang Zhuohe of the Magic Association was visibly shaken. Sweeping his gaze across the speechless crowd, he finally blurted out, "Has anyone taken him in yet? If not, I want him." Zhou Mingjun from the Zhou family immediately protested. "Your Magic Association has nothing to offer a fire element genius. He belongs with us." "Enough! This kid is ours. He's joining the military." Luo Yunbo from the army couldn't contain himself any longer and stood up, determined to claim Mo Fan first. Meanwhile, Yuang stood there, his confidence cracking. Moments ago, he had been the undisputed champion, the golden child of Bo City. Now, he was just another name on the long list of people overshadowed by Mo Fan. A high school student achieving the third level of fire burst would shake the entire city. And there wasn't a soul here who hadn't been completely floored by what they had just witnessed. Mrs. Tang Yue, did you give Mo Fan private lessons? How can he be this abnormal?" Su Zhaoding couldn't help but blurt out, his voice laced with disbelief. For the first time, the once proud lightning mage was completely defeated, not just in combat, but in spirit. Su Zhaoding had been chasing Mo Fan's strength for months. He had reached the second level of the lightning spell 6 months ago and thought he was finally catching up. But now, Mo Fan's progress was like a rocket, shooting past him without warning. The third level of fire burst? There was no way he could believe this unless Tang Yue had secretly trained him herself. "I didn't," Tang Yue said, shaking her head. "He cultivated this on his own." Of all people, she was the only one who knew that Mo Fan possessed a Stardust magic tool, and even she hadn't expected this. She had anticipated that his cultivation was higher than most, but to have already grasped the third level of fire burst? That was beyond extraordinary. Across the arena, Mu Bai's face had turned ashen. At some point, the rivalry between him and Mo Fan had become a distant memory. Now, he wasn't even sure if he could reach Mo Fan's feet. If that level 3 fire burst had been aimed at him instead, he would have been incinerated in seconds. "Jin, brother Jin," Mu muttered, his complexion rigid with shock. Mu Zhuiyun's chest rose and fell with suppressed rage. His face was contorted, not just with fury, but with sheer disbelief. I completely underestimated him," he finally admitted, each word forced out through clenched teeth. Mui stole a glance at Mo Jiaxing, who was sitting nearby. That fool of a chauffeur. Is his luck truly turning? This man had sacrificed everything, throwing away his family's fortune just to send his son to Magic Academy. Yet, against all odds, he had raised a genius. The third level of fire burst. Even Yuang had only reached the third level of ice spread after consuming mountains of resources. But Mo Fan? He had done it without a powerful family backing him. As the chaos settled, the last flurries of snow began to dissipate. The guests who had been watching the battle sat frozen in their seats, their faces filled with disbelief. In the middle of the arena, Mo Fan stood tall, unshaken. On the other side, the ice dust shield had completely disintegrated, leaving only scattered specks of ice glittering on the ground. Yuang, once the proud and untouchable heir of the Mu family, had been blown several meters away. His pristine, prince-like white robes had been reduced to burnt tatters, and his once composed demeanor was in complete shambles. The so-called prodigy of Bo City lay sprawled across the cold ground, stripped of his arrogance and dignity. The snow melted further as Mo Fan took a step forward, his body warming from the residual heat of his flames. "Did you really think you were the only one who could reach the third level?" Mo Fan smirked. "I'll let you put on a show, and now I'll end it with a bang. But then, interesting. It's too interesting." A ragged yet eerie laughter rang out. Yuang, despite his pathetic state, staggered back to his feet, his eyes gleaming with something unsettling. Mo Fan's smirk faded. This guy is still conscious? Logically, the ice shield had absorbed most of the rupture's force, but the explosion's impact should have been more than enough to knock him out cold. Wait, even a level 3 fire burst couldn't take him down. Is this guy made of steel? Among the crowd, Mu Zhiyun exhaled sharply, his cold gaze flickering with satisfaction. Humph. If it weren't for that magic armor, Yuang would have lost already. No one had expected Mo Fan to push Yuang this far. But Mu Zhiyun was always prepared. Magic boots, magic shield, and now magic armor, a voice scoffed from the crowd. Is there any part of his body that isn't covered in enchanted gear? Principal Zhu and Deng Kai exchanged looks of astonishment. Magical armor was no ordinary defense. It was a top-tier enchantment, worth more than even the finest magic shields. Unlike shields, which only blocked specific angles, magic armor provided full-body protection, making it nearly impenetrable. It was the kind of treasure only the wealthiest families could afford. At that moment, Mu Zhiyun leisurely stroked his mustache, turning to his guests with a smug expression. "I forgot to mention," he said with faux humility. "As a coming-of-age gift, I personally gave my son an ice silkworm armor, to ensure he remains unharmed, even in battle." His words sent murmurs through the audience. What the hell? Zhoumin couldn't hold back his anger. What's the point of this duel if he's fully wrapped in magic equipment? If you really had guts, you'd let them fight without all these enchanted tools. How shameless! Su Zhaoding and Wang Sanpeng clenched their fists in frustration. Without those magic items, Yuang would have been crushed by now, left scorched and unconscious. The third level of fire burst would have taught him a lesson about true strength. But instead, the duel had turned into an absurd display of wealth. "Background is also a form of strength," Mu Zhiyun said, his voice cold and dismissive. This wasn't a debate worth having. What did it matter if the Mu family had resources? The world belonged to those who had power. Poor students who thought they could challenge the elite? Fools! Yang Zhuohe sighed deeply, shaking his head. How unfortunate. That Mo Fan is incredibly talented, yet in the end, he still lost to magic equipment. The audience murmured in agreement. Mo Fan had already surpassed all expectations. His mastery of fire burst, rupture had outshone every disciple in Bo City, humbling even the noble families. But a duel was still a duel. Victory and defeat weren't determined by fairness. What Mu Zhiyun had said was true. Background is a form of strength. And like it or not, that was the reality of the world. Mo Fan exhaled slowly, his gaze locking onto Yuang. "You sure picked the right father," he muttered, eyes burning with frustration. This was no longer a duel. It was a rigged display of superiority. Magic boots, magic shield, magic armor. They hadn't given him a single chance to win. Yuang, sensing his frustration, let out another chuckle. The arrogant gleam returned to his eyes. "To be honest," he said mockingly, You're not bad. At first, I thought you were just an attention-seeking clown, hoping to impress the crowd. But it turns out you were hiding your abilities, waiting for the perfect moment to amaze everyone. He spread his arms, gesturing at his still intact body. How unfortunate. You were this close to success. Ha ha ha. Mo Fan clenched his fists. Standing at the edge of the battlefield, Denkai hesitated before stepping forward. Mo Fan, he said, voice low with regret, you should surrender. The ice silkworm armor is designed to counter fire element spells. Even your fire burst rupture won't be enough to break through it. A sharp pang of anger stabbed through Mo Fan's chest. Surrender? Yuong smiled, tilting his head smugly. Denkai is right. My next ice spread will turn you into an ice sculpture. His voice dripped with condescension. But I'll be merciful. If you go to my adoptive father right now and kneel before him, perhaps I'll let you off easy. The laughter of Mu Zhuiyun echoed in the distance. Mo Fan scanned the crowd. Important figures of Bo City, all silently watching, their gazes filled with either pity or detached amusement. So this is the reality of power. This is what it means to stand alone against the privileged. Mo Fan took a deep breath. His lips curled into a slow, deliberate smirk. Fine, he muttered under his breath. Let's see how much your background can actually protect you, because this fight was far from over.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Mu Zhuiyun, the two youngsters of Bo City, have displayed their incomparable remarkability. So let's end it here. You, being one of the characters in the lead of Bo City, should be able to dismiss the youngster's delirious utterance as a laugh. Principal Zhu still opened to his mouth to say at last. The present guests actually all knew of the events surrounding Mo Fan and Mu Zhuiyun, and they also know that if Mo Fan were to lose this duel, he'd have to kowtow an apology until Mu Zhuiyun was satisfied. Mo Fan's display had caused a sensation among the people. A genius who was able to cultivate to the third level of fire burst by themselves definitely deserved the praise of everyone. At this time, Mu Ningxue also put her two pupils onto Mu Zhuiyun's face. She also hoped her father would drop it. If it wasn't for Yuong having the advantage in magic equipment during this duel, then he would basically have lost against Mo Fan, who had exceeded everyone's expectations. Mu Ningxue thought that this victory didn't have any meaning. Just forget it? How could that be? Mu Zhuiyun coldly snorted. If any small thing dared to run up to his face and point at him while cursing him, then how could he, Mu Zhuiyun, continue to meddle in Bo City? A win is a win. What was promised before should be fulfilled. Mo Jiaxing, what are you happy for? Don't you know that your son is going to kowtow to everyone? An old gardener asked from the slanted seats. What kowtow? Mo Jiaxing asked with a blank face. Mo Jiaxing was happy because he never thought that his own son would actually cause the important characters of the city to feel moved. *T. Don't you know that your son and Master Mu Zhuiyun had a bet? If Yuong loses, then he, Mu Zhuiyun, will personally apologize to the two of you for the matters that happened in the past. Whereas if your son loses, he will have to kowtow to Master Mu Zhuiyun until he is satisfied. Our family's child would only think to himself a few words about Mu Zhuiyun. Yet, your son had cursed at him several times to his face. For an important character like him, even if he were to tolerate it, he would still be a little angry. Today, he doesn't plan on letting Mo Fan go, the gardener told him. Mo Jiaxing had no idea about having a bet. He really was a thoroughly confused father. As Mo Jiaxing heard of this, he was stunned. He really did not know of this matter. He was very clear on his own son's stubbornness and pride. Having him kowtow and apologize in this kind of occasion in front of his classmates, teachers, neighbors, and Mu Ningxue? What kind of children were there nowadays? There were some who would even jump off a roof just because they got slapped. If he were to kowtow at this kind of occasion, then he wouldn't be able to raise his head again. Mo Jiaxing hurriedly stood up as he ran toward the host's seat in the middle. Master Mu, Master Mu, Mo Jiaxing yelled toward Mu Zhuiyun. Oh, it's Mo Jiaxing? Mu Zhuiyun squinted his eyes. He still recognized this old chauffeur. Seeing how it's been so many years, let's not make it difficult for a child. Think about today in front of these many people, and many of them are his classmates, teachers, friends. Mo Jiaxing hurriedly pleaded. Don't talk to me about how many years it's been. You talk about it as though I didn't give wages to you. That time I had already been lenient toward your feelings. This time, no matter what you say, I will definitely not let him go. Mu Zhuiyun's attitude was firm. Mo Jiaxing immediately began to panic. He really did not think there was such a thing involving apologizing and kowtowing. With the generations nowadays, and being in their prime, what kind of attack would his self-esteem receive if he were to kowtow and apologize in front of this many people? Then I'll take his place. Let me take his place. Child was not taught. Father takes the responsibility. I'll take his place to kowtow and apologize to you. When you're satisfied, that's when I'll get up. Mo Jiaxing said with panic on his face. Words were just words. This old chauffeur really knelt down in front of the numerous people. His pair of wrinkly eyes looked up to regard the still-sitting Mu Zhuiyun. Everyone's gazes immediately focused on Mo Jiaxing's body. As Mo Jiaxing felt these gazes on him, he also felt a great humiliation. However, if they thought about it, if they were to let Mo Fan, who had cultivated his magic to far beyond the same level as his peers, to do this kind of stuff, then the humiliation would definitely be magnified numerous times. He had already received the approval of the important characters of Bo City, and he nearly defeated the Yuang whom the Mu family had carefully nurtured. In these 3 years, he must have been practicing really hard. He was a very clever young man. The reason as to why he had gone and made such a bet with Mu Zhuiyun was because he wanted to give his total failure of a father the face he had lost when he was driven away like a dog. This child was way stronger than himself. In the future, he would definitely become an extremely excellent magician. If he were to let his son kowtow to someone, then it would be a traumatic experience that he would carry on for life. He himself was just an old chauffeur, an old man with no future prospects. This kind of where you'd lose your face for life thing didn't hurt him at all. Watching Mu Zhuiyun, Mo Jiaxing saw that Mu Zhuiyun clearly would not cool his temper. He clenched his teeth as he kowtowed. On the dueling arena, Mo Fan suddenly saw this scene. His heart felt like it was hit by an arrow, receiving a pain he had never felt before. The tall and aloof people will be that way from the start to the end. The lowly people will forever be lowly people. Are people really equal in this society? If it really was equal, then there wouldn't exist such a thing as being driven away because he and Mu Ningxue was close. If it really was equal, then their own house wouldn't have been taken. For him, that house that blocked the wind and sheltered them from rain was just one of the drops in the ocean for Muhi. If it really were equal, then there wouldn't be all that magic equipment bought using money in a magic duel that was witnessed by all these people. It was like a colossal mountain that would make a grassroot like him feel like it was incredibly difficult to cross. In the old days, social rankings were really clear. They would force people to distinctly understand where they belonged in this society. In the current age, the scariest thing lay in the fact that although you were at same level as them, what you would be unaware of is that no one will tell you before you exit school that once you entered society, it would be like a bolt from the blue, rumbling down. It would catch you unprepared, and you'll be in so much pain that you'd rather die. The kneeling people, the sitting people, n/o/vel/b/jan.c//om. Although you stand most of the time, but there's no difference between that and kneeling. Father, stand up. Mo Fan faced toward the place where Mo Jiaxing and Mu Zhuiyun were. Mo Jiaxing turned his head around, but his knees didn't have the courage to stand up. Mo Jiaxing was too scared of Mu Zhuiyun wanting Mo Fan to personally come and apologize. Mu Zhuiyun remained sitting there, looking indifferent. Mo Fan glanced at his own father, who once again had made a great sacrifice for him, and then at the Mu Zhuiyun, who didn't have any interest in letting the matter go. Father, don't return the gift back to Mu Zhuiyun this early. The duel isn't over yet. Mo Fan looked at Mo Jiaxing, his eyes filled with icy rage. Return the gift? Mo Jiaxing had no idea on what his own son was saying. Mu Zhuiyun didn't know what this guy was saying either. Return the gift? Are you saying that I, Mu Zhuiyun, also need to kneel down and apologize to you? "Mo fan, you have to pay for our own stupidity. Currently, your father is kneeling down to my foster father in front of everyone. I believe that makes you feel even worse than you personally kowtowing." As Yuang saw this scene, he didn't have a trace of sympathy. Instead, he laughed once more. "He's just returning a gift. My dad is a simple and honest person. He feels that it's more sincere if he were to return a gift." Mo Fan turned around. His eyes were coldly gazing at the Yuang, who was still laughing. "I see you're not convinced until you're faced with the reality. In that case, let me turn you into an ice cube first, and then slowly enjoy this kind of ceremony that will cause you to never raise your head again within Bo City." Yuang swore, as his eyes dripped with disdain. The ice stars began to quickly connect with each other within Yuang's eyes. With the ice silkworm armor on his body, Yuang wasn't worried about being interrupted by Mo Fan's fire burst. Even if this guy, Mo Fan, was faster than him at casting. On the other side, Mo Fan's pair of eyes were extremely cold. If Mu Zhuyin had a slight intention of letting go of these matters, then he would have given up on the matters today. However, the father and son's arrogance and irrationality had thoroughly provoked Mo Fan. He firmly believed that if he didn't win this duel, then he would see a scene where his father would kowtow until he started bleeding for his foolish son. However, was he really that foolish? Today I will let everyone understand what it means for a single spark to start a prairie fire. Background is also a form of strength. Mo Fan couldn't help but start laughing loudly. In the next second, his laugh came to a stop. Replacing his laughter was a domineering aura that no one had seen before. In that case, my innate talent is also a form of strength. Do you really think that I, Mo Fan, would lose just like that? Have a taste of the might of my lightning. Purple-colored pupils suddenly appeared. Within the pitch-black eyeballs that seemed like the vast universe was a purple star radiance, glinting warningly. Lightning, the strongest of the elements. It represented anger, might, and destruction. This ridiculous social ladder was shattered into pieces by this violent lightning. The stars actually had a special connection with the feelings of the owner. The natural attribute of the lightning embedded its user with the domineering quality that would not cease at any time. It was not because of the user's petty background. It was not because of circumstances outside of the body. All of the lightning stars has never been obedient before. That was because Mo Fan's mental state had never been in sync with the lightning element's temperament before today. The lightning star path ignited a raging wrath within his heart as it instantly connected. They also seemed like they wanted to be granted all of the energy of their user. Star path emerge. The magic that congested the mysterious energy between heaven and earth was of the highest quality. BZ. The purple lightning arc was tyrannical as it emerged. It unprecedentedly swirled around Mo Fan's body, willingly awaiting Mo Fan's command. Mo Fan raised his head with lightning within his gaze. Lightning strike. Wrath shock. Within the lightning, Mo Fan raised one of his hands. Following this action, he violently grasped his hand, and the traces of lightning frantically swirling in the air turned into lightning soldiers. They gave out an angry hissing as they chaotically bombarded Yuang's position. BZT. After the numerous traces of the purple lightning landed, they began to mutually link to themselves and turned into an even stronger lightning as they ferociously attacked Yuang, who seemed completely defenseless. Yuang's ice spread spell was still being chanted. In the next second, he was completely wrapped within the dazzling, yet dreadful lightning force. The shock within his heart could not be described with words. The attack was incomparably violent. Every time it shocked his body, it would transmit an acute pain. What was even more dreadful was that these lightning traces could enter the body's flesh and bones while causing the enormous effects of an electrical shock. Even if the ice silkworm armor was resisting it, it still wouldn't be able to completely block out the all-pervasive penetrating power of lightning. Yuang's body no longer belonged to himself. His body was acutely twitching as he stood there. The arrogance and superior look on his face was no longer there. All that remained was his eyes filled with questions and disbelief. Why? Why is this? Lightning, This is clearly lightning strike. Why can you, a primary fire magician, cast a lightning spell? N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. The ice silkworm armor didn't exist in front of the might of lightning strike. At last, Yuong let out a miserable scream. His entire being began to collapse under the assault of the purple lightning strike. This time, it would be impossible for Yuong to get up. A third-level lightning strike was even more powerful than fire burst. The ice silkworm armor was capable of restraining fire spells, but there was no way it could possibly defend against the dreadful ability of a third-level lightning strike. The lightning's roar was still screeching by the ears, but the entire manor was completely silent. Everyone was completely dumbstruck the moment Mo Fan cast lightning strike. Although the lightning strike didn't hit them, the bolt from the sky was still within their minds. What did they just see? Lightning strike? This is freaking lightning strike? You, a primary fire magicians, are telling us that you are able to cast lightning strike. Yuong had already collapsed from the attacks. Currently, the people had forgotten about this guy's existence. Instead, the scene in front of them that was beyond common sense had made them so shocked that they almost went crazy. How could they not go crazy? In this world, any magician at the primary level could only control the magic of one element. Magicians were only able to obtain their second element when they reached the intermediate level. You, a third-year high school student who hasn't graduated yet, how can you have acquired two elements? One is fire, the other is lightning dash. Could it be that he's an intermediate magician? That's impossible. That's definitely impossible. In this world, even if your cultivation is fast, there is no way you would be able to cultivate to the intermediate level within just 3 years. This is definitely impossible. Mu Zhuiyun was the first one among the people to shoot out from his chair. He had difficulties believing what he saw in front of him. In the same way, Principal Zhu, Deng Kai, Yang Zhuohe, Zhang Kong, these magicians who were at a higher realm, they were all unable to believe the scene they saw in front of them. Third-level lightning strike. This was clearly the third level of lightning strike. However, how could a fire student be able to cast a lightning spell? Was it the result of a special magical equipment? That's not right. The magnificent purple star path that had emerged around Mo Fan's body had already proven that this power was something he personally used. It's definitely not possible for him to have been supported by other magic equipment. The only lightning magician in this place, Su Zhaoding, was even more dumbstruck. Holy crap! Isn't that the realm that he himself had been thirsting for? The third level of lightning strike. That was the objective that he himself was pursuing for the next few years. Why was it being cast by Mo Fan? You, Mo Fan, are clearly a fire magician, all right? Crumbled, Su Zhaoding's heart just crumbled. This something which he, a genuine lightning user, hadn't grasped and was actually achieved by a fire magician. I don't want to live anymore. Mo Fan's classmates, Zhou Min, Zhao Kunsen, Mu Bai, Zhang Xiaoho, and Wang Sampang, were all frantically rubbing their eyes. It must be because they've been studying magic for so long that they became delirious. Not good. They must return back to school to write 10,000 scrolls to calm themselves. Having illusions before the high school exams was not a good sign. The entire place was silent for a very, very long time. As lightning strike came out, it was as though the concepts everyone knew had crumbled in this moment, and they were unable to say anything for a long time. Who can tell me this? Just what is going on? The man with the surname Zhou also jumped out of his chair as his gaze swept past the important characters of Bo City, who were completely stunned by the display of lightning strike. Is there really no one who can come out and explain? Or is it that I really am blind? Intermediate magician. He is an intermediate magician. He has awakened a second element. That must be it. Xue Mushing used words that he himself could not believe. No! At this moment, the one with the highest status, Principal Zhu, spoke out. The people watched Principal Zhu attentively. They believed that the unbelievable and blinding scene in front of them could only be explained by someone with virtue and prestige like Principal Zhu. He is still a primary magician, Principal Zhu said firmly. Then how could possibly possess the lightning element? Principal Zhu took a deep breath. At this moment, One could tell how stirred up this teacher of Bow City was. He was so stirred up that the muscles on his face were quivering, so moved that he even needed a while to speak. Innate dual element. Mo Fan is an innate dual element. Finally, Principal Zhu spoke out his definite conclusion from shock. NOVL B //JNN. That's right, it must be an innate dual element. This student's cultivation definitely had not reached the intermediate level. The only explanation as to why he was able to cast Lightning Strike was him being an innate dual element. He awakened fire and also awakened lightning. This student, who was nurtured within Tianlan Magic High, was the world's incomparably matchless, rarely seen innate dual element. Innate dual element. Heavens, this world really has an existence like an innate dual element? I don't know what to say. Shwe Mushing, Mo Fan, isn't he your student? Weren't you in charge of the awakening day? The disciplinary teacher Chen Weiliang said, to Shwe mushing at his side while being completely shocked. I was, but I clearly remember he only had a fire element. Shwe mushing tried really hard to recall that day, but unfortunately, he really could not recall the situation back then. This mind-blowing matter caused people to forget that this was a magic duel between the youths. The sensation caused by the innate dual element caused people to forget that the main character today was supposed to be Yuang, who came of age. Tonight, there would be no one as dazzling as Mo Fan, with an innate dual element, who had achieved the brilliant feat of amazing the whole world. This kid, our army will definitely have him. Whoever dares to steal mine, I will raid their home. The head of the army, Zhang Kong, had jumped out of his chair a while ago. He, the great Zhang Kong, feared no one in Bow City. Whoever dared to jump out today and steal this kid Mo Fan with an innate dual element, then Zhang Kong will eliminate said person. Holy crap. He was dropped in Bow City in the south by the higher-ups, and he thought it was just that. Who would have known that this little place would have a youth that possessed an innate dual element that rebels against the heavens? When Mo Fan only had a single fire element, Zhang Kong had already wanted him, and wanted to pull him into the magic army. Who would guess that this kid had concealed such a heaven-alarming talent? He wanted this kid Mo Fan. Zhang Kong would take him even if he had to lose his entire fortune. That man with the surname Zhou wanted to stand up and say something. In the end, Zhang Kong's words made his entire being abruptly stop. *T, not like this. Our Zhou family also wants him. The man with the surname Zhou was now regretting the fact that he didn't jump out earlier to forcefully pull this kid away. Now, after the appearance of the innate dual element, the powers of Bow City were completely broken due to this homeless kid. Boss Zhang Kong, although there are many things which are in your control within Bow City, that does not mean that as long as you want it, you can take it. I'm going to report to the higher-ups. Our enormous magic association has never let go of an exceptional genius. Furthermore, what other organization is more specialized in nurturing magicians than our magic association? Yang Zhua directly jumped out. Small families and small ancestral families would still have to give face to the army. However, the Great Magic Association did not need to do so. Fight? In this world, they had never heard of a power that would dare to contest the Magic Association. This kind of student in our school actually is very much willing to expend a large quantity of money to nurture. So the two no longer need to worry about that, Principal Zhu said. Damn them. These two guys, Zhang Kong and Yang Zhua, wanted to snatch away Mo Fan in front of his face before he even graduates. I old Zhu have good relations with people. However, that doesn't mean I will concede this kind of student to others. If you have some ability, then come and contest our magic school. Don't forget, many of your battle mages actually come from our magic school. So give me all you've got, Zhang Kong. Mu Zhuiyun stood there like a fool. He looked at all the guests who were shocked by Mo Fan, and then looked at all these powers contesting each other about Mo Fan in front of his face. At last, he looked at the dual arena, at the magician who was controlling the dual elements of lightning and fire. Mu Ningxue from his family also had a rarely seen talent in magic. However, if we're talking about appeal, then the innate dual elements were a few points ahead. After all, Mu Ningxue's innate ice affinity spirit was definitely above peers of her age. However, those rich and powerful ancestral families were able to gather treasures to obtain ice affinity spirits, whereas the talent of an innate dual element was something you definitely could not find a second of even if you were to turn on the lights to search for one across the world. It could be said that even Mu Zhuiyun would want this kid. Hurry up and get up. Old brother Jiaxing, get up. I only wanted to give your son a little lesson. How could I possibly have him do it? Mu Zhuiyun hurriedly supported Mo Jiaxing in front of him. Mu Zhuiyun's attitude had taken a 180-degree change. After Mo Jiaxing got up with support, he looked around his surroundings with disbelief. Perhaps a driver wouldn't know what an innate dual element actually represented, but from seeing the change of expressions of these important characters from before and currently, he was able to understand just how incredible his own son was. No, being incredible wasn't enough to describe it. His son perhaps was enough to cause a sensation throughout the entirety of Bo City. This was very good. Selling off his only family property to let him enter Tian Lan Magic High was not in vain. If he hesitated for even a little, he could have killed off an incredible magician. Look at all these important characters of Bo City. Look at the expressions on their faces. Look at them when they're fighting. Heavens, Mo Jiaxing, who doesn't have any morals or ability, is capable of giving birth to such an incredible son. Mo Jiaxing wiped at his tears of joy as he stood up. A busy life and a petty salary, along with a poor environment, had pressured his back that had always been crooked. Normally, he would drive for these rich, powerful people and nod his head and bow, which was no different from kneeling. He now understood why his own son had told him to stand up. It was because from now on, the two of them would no longer have to grovel before anyone. Brother Yuang is still lying there, Mui called out to remind Mu Zhuiyun. Mu Zhuiyun's face immediately sank. T. He had almost forgotten that today was the coming-of-age ceremony for his son Yuang. His majestic and formal coming-of-age ceremony had turned into a day for this brat Mo fan to cause a sensation in Bo City. What was even more regretful was that they had lost this magic duel. This meant that Mu Zhuiyun would have to apologize to the father and son in the front of his distinguished guests. Thinking about this point, Mu Zhuiyun felt something in his chest fiercely rumbling, and his blood pressure had rose tremendously. In the arena, Mo Fan didn't even feel like looking at Yuang, who had turned into something like a dead dog after being bombarded by a lightning strike. Background. You want to talk to me about background? I'll use lightning to shock you into a dog that acts rich. As he turned away, Mo Fan began walking toward the stands. The result couldn't be more obvious. He had won. Despite the shock that had caused everyone's flesh to feel numb, Mo Fan was more concerned about that old scoundrel Mu Zhuiyun's current expression. As expected, the old scoundrel looked as though he wanted to spit blood, but was unable to do so. My dad has already given you his gift, old guy. Why don't you decide for yourself what to do? Mo Fan walked in front of Mu Zhuiyun as he coldly grunted. Waiting for today. I have also been wanting for many years. Today, when people who have a status from Bo City are here, I will make you, Mu Zhuiyun, experience how to lower your voice while you deal with that anger. Mu Zhuiyun's old face began to twitch severely. In reality, Mu Zhuiyun actually thought highly of Mo Fan. He was afraid that the kid would cause a reversal of fortune, and so he had specially prepared Yuang that magic armor. However, Mu Zhuiyun did not even dream that Mo Fan had an innate dual element, and that he even had lightning strike cultivated to the 3rd level. This entire grandiose coming-of-age ceremony had become this kid's ceremony for shocking the world. It was like making a wedding dress for someone else's apprentice. This kind of feeling was like wearing a green hat, causing him to seethe with anger. That? Don't worry. Master Mu Zhuiyun has always been looking after us. Mo Fan, just let this matter go. Mo Jiaxing was after all a good and honest person. From how he saw it, Mu Zhuiyun kneeling down and apologizing was no different than having him killed. In any case, he was still an important character. Yeah, just forget about this matter. Tonight has caused all of us to expand our horizons. Muhi hurriedly jumped in. His attitude was completely different from before. It was simply like someone with a merchant's friendliness. It carried some good intentions. n/o/vel/b//gen.c//om. Just forget it? sh*t. If this old scoundrel Mujuyun had the intention of just forgetting it, then he mo fan wouldn't have brought out lightning to shock them. Oof. What does a kowtow apology amount to? I, Mujuyun, will do what I have promised. If you agree to a bet, then you must be prepared to lose. Mujuyun fiercely spat out these words. As these words were said, Mujuyun really stood in front of Mo Jiaxing. The spoken words was quite bright, yet Mujuyun's actions were somewhat stiff. He really needed to do a kowtow apology to the father and son? After doing this, Mujuyun, would really be unable to raise his head in front of the people of Bo City. Bastard, freaking scoundrels! How could such a heaven-defying talent, like the innate dual element, possibly be on that little scoundrel, Mo Fan's body? No wonder why he was so confident when he agreed to this duel bet back then. It turns out he actually had such a trump card in his hands. The old fox, Mujuyun, was similarly calculating, but he was unable to anticipate his opponent's innate dual element. Struggling, Mujuyun clenched his teeth as his knees slowly bent. Old brother Mujuyun, you must not. Sigh, we don't even have any deep animosity. There's no need to be like this. Besides, what kind of century is this? There's no need for something like this. Even people in the past were able to laugh and forget the old grudges. We could even count to have known each other for a long time. Mo Jiaxing hurriedly supported Mujuyun up. Mujuyun looked back at Mo Jiaxing in shock. In his perspective, most people would be enjoying themselves greatly at this time. It was not just anyone in this world who could enjoy Mujuyun's kowtow apology, let alone Mo Jiaxing, who had also given him one before. Mo Fan, it's all right now. Mo Jiaxing turned around and told Mo Fan. Mo Fan shrugged his shoulders. Even his father had spoken up. What else could he do? Either way, Mujuyun did kneel just now, and it could be said that he also did kowtow. The grudges of many years could be said to have been drained out with the impetuous lightning strike. Well said, even people in the past were able to laugh and forget old grudges. Today should be a day worthy of celebration. Our Bo City has given birth to a shocking genius with innate dual elements. Not too long ago, we thought that Mu Ningxue's ice affinity spirit would make the name of our Bo City famous. Who would have thought that Mo Fan's innate dual element was even more shocking? The heavens really are watching over our Bo City. The prestigious Principal Zhu let out with a sigh. Among the southern cities, Bo City couldn't be counted as being particularly excellent, nor did it have many excellent magicians appearing. Thus, it had been silent in the south for a long time. However, Mu Ningxue's ice affinity spirit, as well as Mo Fan's innate dual element, could definitely cause a great sensation. It would allow Bo City to become the most watched city in the south. This matter excited people just thinking about it. Mo Fan, let's just put it like this. As long as you join our army, then you will definitely be able to become the chief of a city army in the future. Let's not even talk about the large amount of cultivation resources. Someday you are definitely able to find success in this career. Zhang Kong was first to jump out and make promises with a sincerity he never had before. Zhang Kong, that should be enough. Being able to choose which faction is an individual's freedom. What is the meaning behind your forceful recruiting? Yang Zhuohe protested unhappily. **T. How am I forcefully recruiting him? Mo Fan and I address each other as brothers. He is my sworn little brother. Zhang Kong widened his eyes. The two instructors, Luo Yuanbo and Pan Lijun, to the sides, began sweating. Boss Zhang Kong, when did Mo Fan become your sworn little brother? Head instructor, just what are you babbling about? Mo Fan was speechless. Oh, you're not content with that? How about you the older brother? You being my sworn older brother is also all right. Either way, join our army and you're guaranteed a high position and great wealth, Zhang Kong immediately proclaimed. Luo Yuanbo and Pan Lijun had already begun sweating waterfalls. You, the Grand Chief of Bo City's army, are recognizing an 18-year-old kid as your sworn older brother. That'll make all the army squads in Bo City collapse. Can't you have some moral principles, Boss Jean-Kong? The two instructors really wanted to drag their boss Jean-Kong away immediately. This was far too shameless. NOV L B / JNN. At this moment, the fat yet agile facier was fixated on Mo Fan. After hesitating for a while, he finally opened his mouth and whispered to his teammates next to him, "Don't you guys think that this guy looked like a certain person when he cast Lightning Strike? You also think so?" Su Dahuang immediately widened his eyes. On the side, Xiaoko was biting into an apple while she continually nodded in agreement. Li Wenjie had a strange smile as he glanced at Guokaidang. It was very obvious that Guokaidang had also sensed something. Her beautiful face was filled with an unwillingness to accept reality. Fan Mo Fan. *T, it's him. Su Dahuang yelled out as he suddenly came to his senses. The entire hunter squad came to the same realization. The expressions on their faces couldn't be described with mere words. They always knew Fan Mo was young, but they definitely hadn't imagined that he was a third-year high school student who hadn't even graduated yet. The most important thing was, not only did this guy have the lightning element, he also possessed a ferocious fire element. The power behind his fire element was actually not inferior to their captain, Su Dahuang. Guokaidang was probably the person who felt most complex about this revelation. In fact, after interacting with him for the past year, she had developed a good opinion of their mysterious lightning member, Fan Mo. Everyone knew that a lightning mage had infinite prospects, and most lightning mages chose to head into an easy job with a high income and high position. The young and promising Fan Mo had instead been part of their hunter squad, and not only did he excel amongst his peers, he was also very calm most of the time. Additionally, he had once single-handedly saved her life, and another time he had used his lightning strike to save the entire squad. Thus, having a good opinion of him was a certainty. In the end, Fan Mo and Mo Fan, the two had suddenly turned into one. Combining a person who you have a good opinion of with one whom you loathe and disdain, that truly made her speechless. "Everyone, I have something to say." Principal Zhu spoke out once more. Principal Zhu had a good moral bearing and reputation, so naturally everyone paused to listen to him. An innate dual element is an astonishing talent, and the Magic High exams are coming soon. Our school plans on using this extremely rare opportunity to properly pull off a big move and make the people from other places see the might of our Bo City. Thus, I hope for everyone will not leak the matters that happened today. Wait until the National Magic High exams have started. We will give our incredible magician of Bo City, Mo Fan, an opportunity to cause a sensation across the country. How about it? Principal Zhu's voice echoed in everyone's ears. This kind of large matter, it would most likely be spread across the media, covering the skies and earth. Note. Must ask Tofu if this was written before the true cell phone age. There's no way a lid could be kept on it nowadays. It was almost time for the incomparably important Magic High exams, and Principal Zhu hoped to use the opportunity of these Magic High exams to firmly fly the flag of Bo City. It had been far too long since Bo City had this kind of glory. That I don't mind. However, I can at most postpone the reports to the higher-ups for 2 weeks, said the Magic Association representative, Yang Zhuahe. Principal Zhu, who would dare to spread news of this kid with me here? Boss Jean-Kong agreed. Jean-Kong wasn't stupid. If the bigger organizations caught news of this guy, they'd come running here to dig for him. If that happened, then he, Jean-Kong, could only start crying. No matter what, they had to suppress this matter. With this place having so many people, it was only natural to be unable to control everyone from running their mouths off. However, as long as they were able to control the media and prevent them from spreading this matter outside the city, then those people could run off their mouths as much as they wanted. Either way, they were only keeping this a secret until the end of the Magic High exams, when they would announce it. Speaking of all this, isn't this a bit exaggerated? They even have to block off the media for the magic innate dual element. Wang Sampang whispered. Mrs. Tang Yue was sitting with the students. Her heart still hadn't calmed down from the shock. After hearing Wang Sampang's question, Tang Yue couldn't help but explain, "You have only been in a small place like Bo City, so it's natural you don't know how incredible the innate dual element is. If the news were to spread out, then Bo City would be occupied by incredible forces within a day. Furthermore, if Mo Fan were to choose a faction, then some with sinister intentions would rather kill him than let him grow. After all, killing a primary magician like Mo Fan in secret is not a big matter to them. By suppressing this information, it will benefit Mo Fan as well as everyone else. No way. There really are people that scary? Doesn't that make them no different than the Black Vatican? When a human's heart is evil, you need to be cleverly cautious, Tang Yue replied. Brother Fan really caused a sensation this time. Speaking of which, just how did Brother Fan cultivate? Since he has dual elements, then it should take even longer for him to cultivate. So how could he be so much further along than us with both of his dual elements? Zhang Xiaohou couldn't help but ask. Yeah. The corner of Su Zhaoting's mouth began to twitch. Zhang Xiaohou, can't you shut up? I reckon Yuan will cry until he turns stupid. Exactly. Did you not see that old scoundrel Mu Zhuyin? Even though he had some problems with Mo Fan before, now he would immediately accept Mo Fan as his godson. How could that be? Even the chief instructor wants to make Mo Fan his sworn brother. With the chief instructor, an advanced magician, backing Mo Fan, who would dare to touch him? Side comparisons are odious. While Mo Fan's classmates were discussing this, Tang Yue's eyes had been watching Mo Fan this entire time. Tang Yue finally understood how Mo Fan was able to kill the spirit wolf back then. Speaking of which, Mo Fan really gave people endless surprises. He had actually been hiding his innate dual element this entire time. However, doing that was pretty smart of him. Having a low profile while his strength wasn't high enough was not a bad thing. Now that Mo Fan had people who were backing him enthusiastically, like Zhang Kong, his future growth would be a lot smoother. It was just that they didn't know if this guy would be able to properly use his incomparable innate dual element and be able to distinguish himself from the other exceptional geniuses from across the country. Tonight, Mo Fan had naturally amazed everyone. The Magic Association, Hunters Union, and Bo City Army combined to suppress the news together. It naturally wouldn't be possible for this matter to spread out in a short period of time. Ed note, someone has not heard of telephones and the internet age, methinks. Of course, this magic duel's biggest profit wasn't just retrieving his family's dignity from the past. The most important thing was obtaining the opportunity to enter Bo City's underground holy spring to cultivate for a whole week. With the magic high exams approaching, Mo wanted to advance tremendously in his cultivation with the nourishment from Bo City's underground holy spring before taking the exams. That way, Mo Fan would be able to have a stunning performance on the magic high exams and take away the breath of people across the country. When that happened, he would truly be renowned everywhere. It could be said that it would give Mo Fan a perfect road for his future magic cultivation. The underground holy spring. Just what kind of special cultivation ground is it? Mo Fan couldn't help but look forward to it. It was reported that many magicians who were stuck at the primary rank had broken through to intermediate with the help of the underground holy spring. An intermediate magician in Bo City was seen as very good. Furthermore, Mo Fan was an innate dual element magician. Once he reached the intermediate rank, he would possess a third element of magic. That kind of versatility would hold an absolute advantage among intermediate mages. Alright, I must definitely use this rare opportunity to substantially increase my strength. The underground holy spring was located beneath the Silver Commerce Tower, surprising Mo Fan. This was because the roof he met Mu Ningxue on was only one building away. This Silver Commerce Tower looked like a straight, towering pentagon. People described it as a skyscraper, but it looked like a big pentagonal pagoda that was located in the center of Bo City. The height of the Silver Commerce Tower was around 200 meters. The entire exterior was covered in reinforced glass. Beneath the sun, it looked like the tip of an unsheathed sword. When night fell, the entire tower would be filled with brilliant lights and vibrant colors. City areas in the distance were still able to see its swirling rainbow colors in the evening. It was considered a symbolic structure of Bo City. It was said that the super big conference hall on the top floor belonged to Mu Zhuiyun. And Bo City's heavenly treasure, the underground holy spring, was actually located beneath the Silver Commerce Tower. The white and gold collar workers within the tower didn't know that this place even had a 15th subfloor. An elevator that seemed like the ones from a Secret Service's headquarters had taken Mo Fan down to the 15th subfloor of the tower. Mo Fan was stunned to find out that this place really looked like a secret organization. They actually dug out a secret protective underground hall. The underground hall was built using special crystalline rocks. A tone look, you could tell it came from the hands of a very credible construction master. The underground hall had a one patrol squad guarding the place. The patrol squad's captain was also an intermediate magician. An intermediate magician was guarding the entrance. This showed just how important the underground holy spring was to Bo City. Behind this totem door is the underground holy spring. You are allowed to enter for a period of 1 week to cultivate. The underground holy spring will maintain a cycle by itself, so don't touch it. All you need to do is to sit in the middle of the underground holy spring, on the leather mat, as you enter meditation or control. Mu Zhuiyun was in a bad mood as he said this to Mo Fan. This underground holy spring was originally supposed to be taken by Yuang. Who would have thought that it would be taken by this kid Mo Fan? How could Mu Zhuiyun's mood be good in this case? Accompanying Mo Fan here was Tang Yue. Tang Yue slowly nodded to Mo Fan, hinting that he should go inside and enter his seclusion. "Oh, I have something to give you," Mrs. Tang Yue said to Mo Fan as she thought of something. "Something to give me?" Mo Fan was surprised. Mrs. Tang Yue took out 4 different purple and red-colored books from thin air. The books were engraved with what looked like light specks from the stars and star path prints. It looked like some kind of completed magic diagram. "Mrs. Tang Yue, you really are magnanimous when you hand things out. This is a precious star atlas book, and you're even giving out 4 of them. This really is making me, a rich provincial, broaden my horizons." Standing off to the side, Mu Zhuiyun immediately recognized the book's misses. Tang Yue was giving away, his face turning sour. "What is this Star Atlas book?" asked the confused Mo Fan. "After you have experienced the baptism of the underground holy spring, you will surely not be too far from becoming an intermediate magician. I'm not certain whether I'll still be here to teach you. Thus, I'm giving you these Star Atlas books as parting gift so you can have some way to protect yourself after you've broken through to intermediate level." Mrs. Tang Yue stopped for a bit before continuing on to explain the functions of the Star Atlas book. You already know that primary magicians are required to link their stars to form a star path. After a star path emerges, spell will be formed. Mo Fan nodded. It felt as though he was listening to his teacher give him an even higher level magic class. After you reach intermediate level, your stardust will turn into a nebula. The nebula will be even more vast than stardust, and it will have 49 stars in total. Intermediate magic requires you to connect the 49 stars into a star atlas. Intermediate magic will only be born after the star atlas has emerged, Mrs. Tang Yue explained. Stardust turning into a nebula. 49 stars interconnect to form a star atlas, which becomes intermediate magic. Mo Fan's heart silently remembered these crucial words. You should understand that completing the control of 7 stars requires an incomparably long time to cultivate. The 49 stars difficulty won't be just 2 or 3 times as hard. Even if you change your stardust into a nebula, you will still need a long time before you are able to cast an intermediate level magic spell. This Star Atlas book speciality is that when you pour your intent into it, the Star Atlas book will release a special attraction that will cause your 49 stars to form into the arrangement on the Star Atlas. Even if you don't have enough power to take control of all 49 stars, as long as your nebula has enough magic energy, then it will be able to cast its intermediate magic spell. Mrs. Tang Yue explained sincerely. Mo Fan's jaw dropped. He never thought that this world would have such a magical thing. With something like a Star Atlas book, what was the point of magicians bitterly cultivating control? They could just bring along a few books, and they would be fine. Mu Zhuiyun looked as though he could read what Mo Fan had in mind before he coldly humphed. Even if you had money, you still wouldn't be able to purchase a Star Atlas book. Your Mrs. Tang Yue isn't as simple as a regular teacher. Mo Fan looked at the mature and beautiful teacher in front of him, astonishment building in him. Thinking about it carefully, a teacher who was able to casually settle the matter with a Stardust magic tool shouldn't be as simple as just being a high school teacher. Furthermore, Mo Fan had witnessed Mrs. Tang Yue's shadow spells. This meant that Mrs. Tang Yue was at least an intermediate magician. You possess an innate dual element. It will be hard for you to escape the jealousy of smaller people. These books are given to you to protect yourself. Naturally, if you want to use these Star Atlas books, the prerequisites are that you need to turn your Stardust into a nebula and 7 stars into 49 stars. If not, the Star Atlas book will absorb your body and turn you into a mummy, Mrs. Tang Yue informed him earnestly. And note, I think Mo Fan totally missed the part about becoming a mummy. Mo Fan nodded his head in sincere gratitude. He felt really moved. He and Mrs. Tang Yue only had a regular student and teacher relationship, and yet she was caring for him so much. It seemed he must hurry up and cultivate to the level of an intermediate magician, and then earn lots of money so he can marry her. Only then will he be able to return this favor. Thank you, Mrs. Tang Yue. I will definitely do my best, Mo Fan said sincerely. Tang Yue smiled. Her bright eyes had some expectations of him. You shouldn't be too proud of yourself. The heaven and earth spirit pond of this underground holy spring isn't bad. However, it won't be able to help you reach the intermediate level. It will only give you a big push toward the intermediate level checkpoint. If you really want to break through, he's still far for you. Mu Zhuiyun coldly humphed. Tang Yue no longer said anything. She had already given him what she wanted to give him, so she turned around to leave. Mu Zhuiyun was too lazy to look at the kid that made his entire being feel like babbling rubbish. He waved his hand to signal to the protectors of the underground holy spring to pull Mo Fan in and lock him inside. Pull yourselves together. Last time, the ground gutter rat almost found this place. If the warm waters of the underground holy spring were to leak out and attract calamity, then you guys will definitely be questioned, the captain of the guards, Liang Bin, shouted. Captain, don't worry. That matter will definitely not happen again. The other guards made a solemn vow. This last thing Mo Fan had heard from the guards before he had entered the underground holy spring made Mo Fan think of that one-eyed magic wolf that had almost evolved. n/o/vel/b//and.c//om. The one-eyed magic wolf had precisely acquired the leaked warm waters of the underground holy spring, turning it into something dreadful. With that logic in mind, if I was to cultivate here for 7 full days, wouldn't my entire being soar? The underground holy spring was an enclosed area, built with dark green boulders. Each boulder had a strange magic diagram and incantation engraved on its surface. In any case, Mo Fan was an educated person. He could understand some of the meanings behind the diagrams, and if he wasn't wrong, then these must be advanced-level protective-type magic spells. Thus, it was not just some place built with stone. In fact, even if there was an earthquake, it wouldn't necessarily affect this place in the slightest, a flawless defense in the truest sense. Originally, Mo Fan thought this underground holy spring was a large bath. He would strip off his clothes and lie in there, as he enjoyed all of it. However, after passing through a few erected archways, Mo Fan was amazed to find out that the underground holy spring was only a square-shaped, stone-stepped altar. The stone altar had 4 layers. The very bottom one had a small hole that acted as a circuit channel. The clear holy spring water that was practically transparent was slowly flowing through the small stone channel. Mo Fan observed it for a bit and couldn't find anything special about it. Just when he was about to sit down on the stone step altar and start cultivating according to the instructions of Mu Zhuiyun, suddenly, the little loach pendant on his chest began to emit strange trills. What are you getting excited for? Acting like you can drink all this. Mo Fan immediately began to scold it. The current little loach pendant was a spirit-grade Stardust magic tool. Not only was Mo Fan able to maintain meditation for 14 hours a day, He was also able to obtain the special energy from the little loach pendant that helped nourish his two Stardusts. It was precisely why Mo Fan was able to cultivate two elements to the third level within such a short time. Even in a school with so many people, those who possessed the second level of primary magic before they graduated their third year of high school could be considered as impressive. Mo Fan was able to exceed them by a level in circumstances where he had one more element to cultivate. This was enough to display the capabilities of a spirit-grade Stardust magic tool. Is it possible that the little loach pendant is able to absorb the underground Holy Springs warm pond? Mo Fan felt his own pendant's thirst. His heart couldn't help but ponder. The Stardust magic tool and underground Holy Spring should have the same nature, so it should be able to speed up a magician's cultivation. The underground Holy Spring exhibited a colossal amount of energy, so much that it could help magicians attack the intermediate realm from the primary level. Should I try? If the little loach pendant really can absorb the energy from this place, then wouldn't it be able to once more advance to an even higher quality Stardust magic tool? Mo Fan inevitably had some brazen thoughts floating through his head. The school's Stardust magic tool's energy was completely absorbed by the little loach pendant. If the special warm pond within the underground Holy Spring was absorbed, wouldn't that be equivalent to him carrying around the underground Holy Spring on his body? The underground Holy Spring only opened up once a year. It would only be able to supply one promising magician with cultivation time. With just that many people admired it. If sh*t, I can't. The Stardust magic tool from school was absorbed by the little loach pendant and was turned into garbage. He could only thank Mrs. Tangyue, who had helped him settle the matter. This time, if he were to absorb the entire underground Holy Spring, not only would all of the people in Bo City go crazy, he himself would be put on a stake and burned to death. Carefully meditate. It's better to not think about this kind of large, illogical matter. Little loach pendant, don't be so impulsive. I know this thing is a big supplement for you. However, if you were to do that, then your grandfather, would be stomped by the people of Bo City. Thus, you cannot just do anything you want. We'll just quietly seclude ourselves here for 7 days, and then pass the exams, enter university, and then subdue monsters and kill demons to save the world, with my left hand wrapping itself around Moonning Shue and nestling against Tangyue with my right. When the time comes, we'll even find you a female pendant, Mo Fan dreamed inside. The little loach pendant seemed as though it really understood, as it no longer blindly caused trouble. It returned to obediently laying on Mo Fan's chest. Mo Fan took a deep breath. sh*t, is this really a pendant? Why is it acting like a little demon king in the world of players? n/o/vel/b // After seating himself on the leather mat, Mo Fan was able to feel an energy gathering to him, similar to the nourishment of the pendant, even if he didn't enter meditation. The nourishment from the special warm pond was much stronger than little loach pendant. If the Stardust magic tools were divided into common grade and spirit grade, then the cultivating nourishment which the underground Holy Spring brought was definitely a first-rate one. It felt like his entire being was getting ready to fly. His lightning and fire Stardusts, who were at a saturated state, began to move. They were like two infants who suddenly touched mother's milk as they frantically began to suck it in. Every time they sucked, their bodies began to expand a little. When he first awakened, the two Stardusts were really small. In his entire spiritual cosmos, they really seemed like tiny Stardusts. Their radiance was rather dark and not clear. Sometimes, they were even hard to find. After cultivating for 3 years, the Stardusts gradually expanded, their radiance distinct and clear. His entire Stardust looked as though it formed its own territory as it exhibited a mysterious energy. At this moment, the two Stardusts had subtle expansions. The change in every hour was about the same as Mo Fan's bitter cultivating for a whole week. This is too good. This experience is almost like cheating. Mo Fan's heart was incomparably stirred up. He never thought that he himself would actually accidentally obtain such an exceptional opportunity for cultivating. It seemed like stealing resources from those wealthy second generations was necessary. Even a dumbass would be able to be an expert who exceeded their peers with a cultivation speed like this. Resources. There were too many resources that were in the hands of a small number of people. If it wasn't for him revealing his dual elemental ability, then he wouldn't have gotten his hands on the underground holy spring. With the nourishment from the spirit-grade stardust magic tool, added with the effects of the underground holy spring, the 7 days of cultivation could very possibly allow him to attack the intermediate magician level. A new guard who came not too long ago, Wang Tonglian, inquired of his commanding officer, Captain Liang Bin, "Is this underground holy spring really that miraculous?" Our Bo City traces back a long time, even earlier than the age of Qin kingdoms. The underground holy spring could be said to have survived up until now. Think about it. Our Bo City doesn't have economics, talents, nor development. So why are we a reputable city in the south? It is only because of the existence of the underground holy spring. It could be said that without the underground holy spring, our Bo City would at most be recognized as a village. Guard Captain Liang Bin answered from his seat on the floor, his face tranquil. Dating from the Qin kingdoms? Doesn't that mean it has more than 2,000 years of history? The new guard asked, shocked. Exactly. As long as you're not a naturally endowed, foolish, incurable magician, then cultivating inside there for 1 hour would be equivalent to cultivating for 3 days on a normal day. Liang Bin's face couldn't help but reveal some fascination. But Captain Liang, there are only a few people in Bo City who have entered underground holy spring, a guard to the side pointed out. Liang Bin nodded. He could never forget about the time he had been in there to enjoy it for 7 days. To people who thirsted for a greater power, that place felt even better than having a group of beauties assigned to you to ravage for 7 days. Furthermore, the underground holy spring that was capable of assisting a breakthrough to intermediate level also had a big ability. If you were guarding it for the long term, even if it was separated by a restricted door, you were still able to receive some of its nourishment. Why else would a grand intermediate magician be willing to stay there? Captain Liang, the cavern tunnel that was dubbed the colossal-eyed ape rat has been found. This cavern tunnel looks extremely deep. We didn't dare to go too deep in for now, said a valiant and formidable-looking woman wearing a guard uniform. The beautiful eyes of the female guard carried hints of valor. Paired with that tight white uniform, she commanded an unique charm. Vice Captain Lin Yusin, you're thinking too much. The colossal-eyed ape rat is a commonly seen creature within Bo City. Being able to dig all the way here through a complicated underground drain is also an occasional matter, said the rookie guard Wang Tonglian. Lin Yusin creased her brow. It was very clear that she did not like how laid back this Wang Tonglian was. The Magic Association has already sent someone to investigate this. There was nothing particularly strange. It's better if you just stop worrying, Captain Liang said with a smile. Lin Yusin nodded, but it was evident that she didn't loosen up after those words. I'll take a look on the outside. After Lin Yusin finished speaking, she brought 4 guards along and left. Everyone stared at Lin Yusin's attractive backside before they couldn't help but shake their heads. Ever since Lin Yusin's sister went missing, her smile has become a rare occurrence. Sigh. Even her sister's skeleton hasn't been found at this time. Such a good middle student. If she's gone, then she's gone. Tan exclaimed as he sighed. I heard that it was done by a colossal-eyed ape rat. Perhaps, who knows? After Vice Captain Lin Yusin had left the underground hall, her heart was still filled with worry. After her sister had gone missing a year ago, she has been constantly searching for colossal-eyed ape rats. She even entered those caverns left behind by the colossal-eyed ape rats in the underground sewers of Bo City. Even if the Magic Association had sent people out to investigate, Lin Yusin was still unresigned. She was unwilling to believe that her dearest little sister would disappear from this world without seeing her corpse. Just yesterday, Lin Yusin found something that was unusual within the caverns of the colossal-eyed ape rat. It was water. Having water in the sewers was very normal. If someone else were to see this, they definitely wouldn't think this was strange at all. However, in the eyes of a water magician, that wasn't just your normal water. Accurately speaking, the water was very similar to the waters of the underground holy spring. Why was the water of underground holy spring in the sewer tunnels? This was something incredibly inconceivable. The underground holy spring was being protected. Even a drop was precious. However, when she investigated the sewer tunnels, the water was like a sewage flow as it was spread all over the quagmire, even as it was being drunk by the nasty rats and cockroaches. Suspicious, Lin Yusin specifically brought this water over to a specialist who researched substances. The researchers from the Magic Association had told her that the results would come today. Lin Yusin walked to an empty place and saw it was nearly time to call the number of the researchers at the Magic Association. "How is it? What did the results say?" Lin Yusin asked. "It is not the underground holy spring," the researcher calmly said. "I thought so." Lin Yusin nodded. It seemed like she was thinking too much. However, other than it not having the same special effects, its other qualities are very similar to underground holy spring, the researcher continued. "What does that mean?" "It's possible to find a second underground holy spring in this world." Lin Yusin was puzzled. The underground holy spring is a spirit pond from heaven and earth. Other than it being clean, it is able to bring a great nourishment to cultivators and magical beasts. This water, that is similar to the underground holy spring, was also birthed from a special environment. However, it should have been affected by the darkness in its surroundings. The waters that you found are actually also capable of boosting the strength of cultivators and magical beasts for a short period of time. The only difference is that this water seemed more like a stimulant, frantically absorbing the energy in the organism's body. The creatures would turn crazy and irrational at the cost of their energy, the researcher said sincerely. Lin Yusin was startled, as she had never heard of this kind of water existing in this world. Could it be that this water was the cause of the originally vulgar and cowardly colossal-eyed ape rat jumping out and harming people? "There's one more thing, but I hope I'm just thinking too much." The researcher's voice suddenly turned exceedingly solemn. "What is it?" "If you don't drink this sewage water, then it could actually be passed off as underground holy spring, as it has similar effects. At the very least, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between two of them within a day." Lin Yusin felt a chill over her body. Fake imitations as real? This kind of water had indescribably emerged within the cavern dug by a colossal-eyed ape rat. A year ago, a colossal-eyed ape rat almost dug through the location of underground holy spring. Was this really a coincidence? It could be a coincidence. Lin Yusin rigidly smiled as she herself couldn't believe that. "I can only hope so. There's going to be heavy rain. I'll come to the Silver Commerce Tower to pick you up. You probably don't have an umbrella," the researcher said. "I'm a water magician. Would I still need an umbrella?" Lin Yusin said. "All right, let's have dinner together tonight. I have to guard underground holy spring." "All right." Lin Yusin hung up the phone with her forehead creased. There remained many doubts in her heart. A white pickup truck that was turning gray was climbing up the snowy Peak Mountain Station. Just as it entered the station, torrential rain suddenly began to pour down. In an instant, the entire mountain range was enveloped by the continuous rain. An orange mist emerged on mountain peaks in the distance. The goods were almost ruined. "Fortunately, I got here just in time." Mo Jiaxong jumped out from the truck as he looked at rain outside with a lingering fear. "How can the rain have colors on it?" "Strange," a few veterans in the station remarked. "Yeah, it looks like the color of urine." "Ha ha," another hunter magician laughed. Mo Jiaxing passed by them as he greeted some of the familiar faces with a smile. As he heard the people discussing how the rain was weird, he couldn't help but look at the sky that was covered by a curtain of rain. Either way, this rain really was strange. The station was normal. The man guarding the northern checkpoint was a direct subordinate of Zhang Kong, Wan Duanfeng. Wan Duanfeng was the army commander of a regiment with 1,000 people, an intermediate earth magician. In terms of guarding Bo City, there was no one who was more remarkable than him. NOVLB //JNN. Wan Duanfeng wore a conjoined leather raincoat. He stood in the middle of the rain with a dignified and solemn bearing. His gaze was attentively watching the forest that was drenched by the large rain. Suddenly, a light ball flew out from the back of the mountain hill as it broke through the yellow rain. In the dark skies, it let out a weak light. Brilliant light. Wan Duanfeng widened his eyes and his expression immediately sank. Brilliant light was the primary spell of light magicians. The purpose of light magicians within the army were very important, as they are able to transmit messages and locations. This brilliant light was similar to a primitive signal bullet. Magical beasts had no perception toward this kind of light, and if they were to watch it, it could easily cause blinding harm to their eyes. If the soldiers were to use any other technological equipment to transmit messages, it'd be like sending the surrounding magical beasts their GPS location. This kind of brilliant light had become a strategy to expel magical beasts and transmit signals. Commander 1, that is a warning signal. Why is Group 3 sending a signal to us? Could it be that a magical beast is escaping? A battle mage to the side asked. As he finished speaking, yet another brilliant light cut through the rain from afar, once again turning increasingly bright. At this moment, all the battle mages standing guard at the checkpoint were startled. Two brilliant lights. A blue alert? The alerts were divided into different levels. The first level was orange. 2 years ago, Bow City had pulled off an orange alert. Back then, there was precisely a brilliant light radiating from the back of the mountain. At that time, there were at least 300 magical beasts scattered in the vicinity of the safety boundaries. Today, 2 staggered brilliant lights were seen. This meant a blue alert. Once this alert went off, it signified there were hidden threats and a crisis in the city. The orange alert was quickly solved by Boss Jean-Cong back then. However, with the appearance of a blue alert today, it meant that there were at least a few thousand magical beasts roaming the vicinity of the safety boundaries. Heavens, Bow City hadn't sounded off a blue alert for the last 10 years. A jingling sound rose. Just when everyone thought this was a joke, the phone in Wan Duanfeng's pocket began ringing. The rain poured down onto the faces of the hundreds of battle mages, revealing stunned expressions. With the exception of the sounds of rain and Commander Wan Duanfeng's mobile ringtone, the surroundings were very silent. n/o/vel/b/jin.c//om. Wan Duanfeng fished out his mobile beneath the drifting rain and put it to his ears. Hello, Commander. While we were attacked by a group of beasts, our light magician. The light magician died. We are unable to continue firing off the brilliant lights. The voice of Squad Captain Zhou Jin was coming over the phone. Wan Duanfeng felt a chill run through his body. The hand that was holding the phone began to tremble. If Bow City is able to survive this disaster, please apologize to Boss Jean-Cong and apologize to Pan Li Jun. Zhou Jin's voice was gloomy and hoarse, carrying reluctance. Wan Duanfeng's face was fiercely twitching. His eyes carried a deep sorrow and anger. Beep, beep, beep. After saying this, he hung up the phone. In the process of the call, Wan Duanfeng was able to hear clamorous roars. The roars sounded as if they were right next to his ears. His heart was palpitating. Wan Duanfeng put down the phone in his hand with a despairing soul. He tightly closed his eyes, the pouring rain paining him, and it seemed even more swords were stabbing into his heart. Even though they had hung up the phone, Wan Duanfeng was still able to imagine the next second when the squad captain Zhou Jin let out a grieving shriek. He was dead. He was definitely dead. There was no one who was more clear about that than Wan Duanfeng. A person who was using a phone in that situation was definitely not capable of surviving. Sound off the blood alert. Wan Duanfeng took a deep breath. His eyes no longer had traces of sadness. It was replaced by the resolution of a soldier's hard work. Blood alert? You're not joking with us, are you, Captain Wan? The battle mage at his post had a disbelief on his face. Beneath the curtain of reins, the battle mages guarding their posts were all dumbstruck. For them, the second-level blue alert was already a turmoil. As for the blood alert, that was a calamity. The blood alert was the most dreadful calamity. Some people could live their entire lives without seeing a blood alert, whereas those who had experienced a blood alert might not be able to step out of that shadow for the rest of their lives. What are you being distracted for? Hurry up and do what I told you to do. Wan Duanfeng practically roared. These blockheads, delaying the sounding of blood alert by even a second, could cause the death of hundreds of people. Roar! Suddenly, A series of roars that caused people's heart to shake came from the back of the mountain. It was as though the back of the mountain had series of lightning bolts hitting it, causing the entire mountain to tremble. The aftermath of the trembling reached the station. The giant stone barrier in the station also slightly trembled. In the vast curtain of rain, a fuzzy figure suddenly jumped out. He emerged on top of an erected pine tree's utmost summit. Beneath the rain, the proud and aloof creature that resembled a king clearly had the body of a wolf, yet it was arching its back as it stood there. The three eyes on his fierce skull let out an incomparably vicious red light. The magical beast was overlooking this checkpoint station of the human city from afar. It was like it was looking at penned-up sheep. Three-eyed magic wolf, a young battle mage to the side shouted with a trembling voice. As he said this, the three-eyed magic wolf that was proudly standing on top of the pine tree suddenly had shadows scuttling forth at its back. Those shadows occupied the tall trees as they scattered around the three-eyed magic wolf like it was a military officer. More and more the shadows appeared. Their red and savage eyes were like stars decorating the dim rain. One glance caused their entire bodies to feel a chill, and their scalps went numb. Multiple packs of one-eyed magic wolves began to appear on the hill. They simultaneously raised their heads as they howled toward the sky that was raining down. The entire mountain was covered by their voices. They're continuously calling for their comrades. A summoner who had done research into the beast language stated, his face completely stunned. Heavens, that place already had over 300 one-eyed magic wolves. With that many one-eyed magic wolves calling out at the same time, just how many more magical beasts were they calling for? At this moment, the battle mages who guarded the station finally understood why they sounded off the blood alert. The magical beasts were attacking. Multiple groups of magical beasts were attacking. This was a calamity, an unforeseen calamity. A heavy rain, followed by hundreds and thousands of magical beasts who were frantically rushing in. Bow City had been fighting with the magic wolves for many years. It was like the magic wolves were no longer able to suppress the thirst in their hearts. They were gathering beneath the commands of higher-level magic wolves before they frantically attacked the defense line of Bow City. A dark green tide covered the mountain, formed by numerous one-eyed magic wolves. They were frantically running and howling. The small snowy peak mountain station trembled fiercely. The eyes of the numerous magic wolves were filled with hatred and cruelty toward the humans waiting beneath the heavy rain. They planned on eating all the living people. Beneath this kind of frightening sound, even the magicians seemed incredibly small. At this moment, they were coming to fight off the magical beasts. For many of the battle mages, they would never forget the scene of groups of one-eyed magic wolves racing over. It's unlikely that they would forget it, because there wouldn't be many who would necessarily survive today. Within the underground holy spring, a youth wearing a street-bought shirt was earnestly sitting there with his face occasionally looking excited, and sometimes his brow was furrowed. Whether it was studying or cultivating, they were both slow and dry. Mo Fan had already deeply experienced this point. However, for his incredible life as a magician, he was willing to endure this lifestyle. I don't know how many days it has been, but I can feel myself touching the doors of an even higher realm. Mo Fan stopped meditating and began to ponder. The biggest difference between primary and intermediate level was the stardust within a mage's spiritual world turning into a nebula. During the time his inexperience card was activated, Mo Fan cultivated frenziedly. His cultivation time had always been more than twice as long as others. And additionally, he had the nourishment from the underground holy spring. With this, he was able to achieve nearly 24 hours of continuous meditation. After all, meditation gave Stardust a large boost. Mo Fan was already able to clearly feel the transformation of his magic Stardust during the past few days. Originally, the higher-level magic nebula was a strange and odd thing to him. However, after his Stardust had burst out with a weak, pulse-like radiance, Mo Fan vaguely felt that this could be the sign of a breakthrough. Normally, Stardust was very stable. His current stardust was covered in a mist of a bizarre light shell that looked like an aurora. After going through meditation in this short period of time, there was a clear thirst and agitation coming from the stardust. It seemed like a little life within an egg, urgently trying to break open the mist light shell on the outside. With every intense radiance coming from the stardust, it was an attempt to break through the binding of the shell. Every time the radiance turned dark, it probably meant the stardust was charging its power. His lightning element was the first element he had awakened. During this period of time, Mo Fan felt like the lightning stardust was going to break through the shells and evolve. Even the stars seemed to have some clear changes. Still not enough. Let's continue meditating so I can get the stardust to increasingly expand. Only then will they have a hope of breaking through and becoming a nebula. After Mo Fan let himself rest for a while, he already began to have the ideas of attacking the next realm. BZZ. Suddenly, a fierce trembling came from his surroundings. Mo Fan, who had been about to break through in a spurt of energy, immediately opened his eyes as he surveyed the shaking walls of his surroundings. What kind of circumstance is this? An earthquake? Mo Fan stood up and walked toward the location of the large gate as he put his ears to it. He wanted to hear whether something had happened on the outside. Just as he was going to listen, the restricted gate slowly began to open up. A week has already gone by? That was fast. Mo Fan was stunned. The sealed door opened up. A woman wearing a milky white uniform entered Mo Fan's eyesight as she darted in. At the same time, Mo Fan saw the entire underground hall was covered in scarlet red marks of blood. The guards were laying everywhere, their bodies all ripped into several pieces. The blood clots and organs were all mixed into pools of blood. Seeing this stunned Mo Fan's entire being. Corpses. There are so many corpses. What happened to these guards of underground Holy Spring? What happened to make them so miserable? Captain Liang, the uniformed young woman, yelled out. As she finished yelling, Mo Fan saw movement on the other side. The intermediate magician, Liang Weichan, were fiercely thrown toward a pillar of the underground hall like a sandbag. The pillar was directly broken into two. Fortunately, Liang Weichan's body had a layer of water barrier protecting him, or else that kind of collision would definitely have injured him badly. Just what is happening here? Seeing that made Mo Fan tremble in fear. There was actually something that was capable of throwing a grand intermediate magician around like a sandbag. Mo Fan moved to the side so that he could see the other half of the underground hall obstructed by the stone door. What numbed Mo Fan's entire body was that there was actually a creature standing there with a body that was bigger than a small truck. This creature's neck and head were indistinguishable, but the big rat's body was extremely distinct. It was different from a colossal-eyed ape rat. This creature's body was covered in incomparably sinister, twisted, and numerous blood marks. It made this pickup-sized big rat appear even more dreadful. Mo Fan had been in the hunter squad for a year, yet he had never seen this kind of body. He had never seen a colossal-eyed ape rat with a body full of blood marks. The aura it emitted from its body made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cavern as he trembled in fear. This is a blood-marked colossal rat. Mo Fan plundered the knowledge he had learned from his magical beast classes. At last, he finally remembered the name of this creature. Heavens, the blood-marked colossal rat on the textbooks looked somewhat comical, but the genuine blood-marked colossal rat's fierce appearance felt like an attack in itself. Why did this thing appear inside the underground hall, where all the guards get killed by this blood-marked colossal rat? Gug. The blood-marked colossal rat seemed to have smelled the odor emitted from the underground Holy Spring. Its massive lantern eye immediately locked onto the location of Mo Fan and the guardswoman. Its sharp claws easily dug into the underground hall's stone bricks. One could feel that this blood-marked colossal rat was currently charging up its power, just like a pickup truck gunning its engine. Close the door! Surrounded by stone fragments, Liang Weichan shouted toward the guardswoman. Lin Yusin bit her lips, but she had no choice but to fiercely slap the gate. The two restriction gates closed. Just when the opening was reduced to a small crack, Mo Fan was terrified to see the blood-marked colossal rat's claw coming in. It caused Mo Fan to reflexively stumble back. Too fast. The closing speed of the gates was extremely quick. The blood-marked colossal rat was clearly over 30 meters away, yet it charged over in a wink. Boom! The stone gates trembled. The blood-marked colossal rat had clearly slammed into them. Lin Yusin's complexion turned pale as she glanced at the student who was still cultivating here. What happened? Mo Fan asked, a lingering fear in his heart. The scene from before was too scary. If they were one step later closing the door, then they would have instantly lost their lives. The blood-marked colossal rat was several times scarier than the nearly evolved one-eyed magic wolf. It was definitely not something a primary-level magician was capable of fighting against. If you don't want to die here, then come with me. Lin Yusin didn't have the time or patience to explain to him. All of Bo City had sunk into a crisis. The sewers were filled with magical beasts. They appeared to have been planning for it. They all began to frantically attack the underground holy spring. n/o/vel/b/jan.c//om. On the surface, all of the magicians were currently fighting off an invasion of magical beasts. The underground holy spring had suffered a surprise attack, and so they wouldn't be receiving any reinforcements. Presently, they could only rely on themselves to protect the underground holy spring. How do we leave? This is basically a cell. Mo Fan looked at the guardswoman, who was dripping with sweat. Just follow me. Lin Yusin didn't want to babble with Mo Fan and quickly walked to the altar. Following her instructions, she ran her finger under the edge of the altar and found a button hidden under the edge. Biting her lip, she pressed it down and heard a gurgling behind her. Without knowing what kind of button she had pressed, the originally circulating underground holy spring was now continuously flowing into a small hole. Good. A few seconds later, all of the underground holy spring had disappeared. There was not a single drop left within the small stone ditch. Lin Yusin strode to the very top of the altar and tore open the still leather mat, which was still warm from Mo Fan sitting on it. The board beneath the leather mat could be opened. After Lin Yusin opened the board, there was a blue bottle on the inside. Within the bottle appeared to be the incomparably clear underground holy springs waters. Mo Fan was incredibly curious. How could so much underground holy spring be contained within a soda can-sized bottle? Lin Yusin carefully put away the bottle that contained the underground holy spring and turned around to look at the straightforward student who was about to do his Magic High exams. She said, "This is the emergency protection plan for the underground holy spring. There is another passage in this cell. It should lead to the back mountain of your Tian Lawn Magic High. It leads to the back of the school's mountain. Miss, can't you tell me just what exactly has happened first?" Mo Fan asked anxiously. "You'll know once you've exited. Come with me first. Their objective is precisely the underground holy spring. We cannot let underground holy spring land in their hands." Lin Yusin didn't want to say too much. There? Mo Fan was even more confused. He didn't know what Lin Yusin was saying. Lin Yusin walked along the wall. Her fingers actually inserted what seemed to be some kind of password into a section of the stone wall that was indistinguishable from the rest. Mo Fan was stunned as he saw this. He had concentrated hard to cultivate in this cell, so much that he didn't realize there were so many mechanisms in the underground holy spring chamber. Krrr. With a grinding noise, the stone wall to the side suddenly opened up, revealing a pitch-black tunnel. He really wondered where the tunnel led to point one. "Leaving this place is our priority." Lin Yusin said no more as she grabbed Mo Fan, and they walked into that dark tunnel. Mo Fan had also realized that there were major things happening on the outside, so he didn't dare to hesitate. As they walked a few steps inside, Lin Yusin suddenly thought of something. Her pair of somewhat sharp eyes looked over at Mo Fan. "This secret tunnel isn't necessarily safe. The people from the Black Vatican should have me as their objective. I'll let you carry the underground holy spring. You must protect it." Lin Yusin made a decision that he himself thought was rude and impetuous. However, Lin Yusin had no other choices. The Black Vatican came here prepared. It seemed like they knew the underground holy spring like the back of their hand. If they were to meet people from the Black Vatican during the process of escaping, then their main objective would definitely be her, the vice captain, while Mo Fan, a student, would definitely be neglected by the people from Black Vatican. As long as they were able to protect underground Holy Spring, then there was still hope. Can I trouble you to just tell me what is going on? Mo Fan was a bit impatient. Judging by how Lin Yusin appeared to have lost her spirits, it meant that a big commotion was happening in Bo City. Blood alert! Lin Yusin was unable to clearly explain to this student in a short amount of time. After all, the student was secluded in the room and completely ignorant of what had happened in the outside world. Blood alert? A colossal rock ferociously hit Mo Fan's heart, causing a huge wave of emotion. After coming to this world, Mo Fan had learned some very important information. It was a fact that humans were not the dominant race in this magical world. Outside of the city dwelled magical beasts hundreds and thousands of times more numerous than humans. The magical beasts were also spying on the resources that were occupied by humans. Beneath the command of some magical beasts that acted like monarchs, the magical beasts would be like a legion as they attacked human cities in a large-scale assault. There had been cases where some weak cities disappeared after a single night. Thus, the 5 continents of the world with the strongest magic associations called these kinds of attacks against cities alerts. Furthermore, they would be divided into different levels based on the number of magical beasts and their powers. Just like natural disaster warnings from the technological world had different levels, so too the kind of crises where magical beasts would invade the humans also had different levels. Orange alert! That was the first level of alerts. This meant there were sightings of magical beasts within the vicinity of the safety boundaries. Their numbers were above 300. An orange alert happened 2 years ago. That time had already alarmed people. A blue alert was even more dreadful. For Bo City, this would be a foul wind of blood rain. Who knows how many magicians and civilians would lose their lives when the magical beasts wantonly invaded. But the higher level, blood alert, that was destruction, massacre, a catastrophe for the city. The limited amount of battle mages would be unable to fend off the invasion of the magical beasts. The magical beasts would invade the city and start wildly massacring the people. It was not just a few magical beasts running around. There would be hundreds or thousands of them. There were many magicians who would get slaughtered like chickens, let alone the civilians who were completely unable to do anything. Blood alert. The city would turn into a river of blood. The corpses would be everywhere. Just the descriptions and records from books caused people to tremble in fear. Now that everything was happening in front of everyone's eyes, just what kind of hell on earth would it be? After passing through the secret tunnel, Mo Fan, who was still dazed with disbelief, and Lin Yusin emerged on the north side of the mountain in the city. The heavy rain was still pouring down, the dark and gloomy weather enveloping all of Bo City in a depressing atmosphere. From afar came a roar that caused people to shake as it echoed in their ears. In an instant, their bodies began to tremble in fear. Mo Fan turned his gaze in the direction of where the roar of the magical beast came from. Heavens, that was a residential area. The ground-level houses and the streets constructed with an outdated cement. It was like a food market that had scarlet red blood flowing out. All that blood couldn't be the blood of chickens. That was the blood of once living people that converged into a streamlet as it flowed into the sewers from the constant pouring of the heavy rain. Bloody red, an eye-catching bloody red. n/o/vel/b/c/jing.c//om. Standing on the back of the mountain in the middle of the city, you could clearly see bloodstains everywhere in the rain-covered, dusky Bo City. Bo City was an ink-like city with the characteristics of the South. Under the rain, it would normally look even more like a beautiful painting. However, today, Mo Fan saw a painting that was filled with blood stains, like the arrival of a nightmare. A trembling roar suddenly erupted from Bo City. Its sound caused goosebumps all over. Mo Fan suddenly turned his head around as he looked in the direction of the sound. However, a mind-blowing and terrifying scene entered his eyesight. A gray sky was shrouded all of Bo City. Bo City's symbol building, the Silver Commerce Tower, was like a crane in a flock of chickens. It almost looked as though it was touching the gray heavens. However, Lying on the dome of the lofty silver commerce tower was a colossal shadow. Its tail stretched almost the full length of the dome of the commerce tower. Half of its wings were unfurled. One half looked hazy in the rain. The other half covered several floors of the building. Its head was raised high. The roar that shook the entirety of Bow City came from a ferocious mouth that was capable of swallowing clouds. The colossal creature was laying on Bow City's highest point. You could see the dome of Silver Commerce Tower from any location in Bow City. That meant that everyone in Bow City was able to witness this ferocious and colossal dark creature. This scene caused Mo Fan to take a deep breath. He was unable to regain his senses for a long time. This was too mind-blowing. This entire thing was too much for Mo Fan. What spirit wolf? What one-eyed magic wolf? What blood-marked colossal rat? All of these looked like a joke of an army in front of this creature that was sitting on top of the Silver Commerce Tower. Mo Fan's definition of a magical beast had been fiercely overthrown in this moment. It was in the territory of the humans, yet it looked like it had entered its own territory. Humans were only food which it had confined and raised in this city. Just what exactly happened? Is this still the Bow City I am familiar with? Didn't the magical beasts get banished into the depths of the mountains? Or were the textbooks always deceiving others? The ones who ruled over this world had never been humans. They were these magical beasts that were massacring Bow City. It's a nightmare. It's the underworld. He could really feel every inch of his body shivering from fear. Just what exactly is that? Mo Fan regained his senses after a long time. Not too long ago, he was directly beneath this dreadful creature. If he hadn't used the secret tunnel to escape from the Silver Commerce Tower, then would he have lost his life there? Darkwing Wolf, Commander-level magical beast. Calling hundreds of magical beasts with just a howl. The only person in Bow City who can survive its attack is the chief of the army, Jean Combe. Lin Yusin replied in a stiff voice. Calm? Commander level? Mo Fan repeated faintly. In the Hunter Squad, Mo Fan had come to understand a lot of knowledge which was not mentioned in the textbooks provided by school. One such tidbit was that Mad Cow beasts were divided into different levels based on the evolved stage. Spirit Wolf, Colossal-eyed Ape Rat, One-eyed Magic Wolf. All those magical beasts which Mo Fan had encountered once before were all the lowest level, servant-class creatures. These servant-class creatures were like butchers in the eyes of the non-magicians. They were completely unable to fend them off. The blood-marked colossal rat that you saw in the underground hall is a soldier-class creature. The Darkwing Wolf is an even higher-level magical beast commander, and also one of the reasons behind the blood alert. Other than the blood-marked colossal rat, there are hundreds of three-eyed magic wolves outside of the safety border who are commanding numbers of one-eyed magic wolves as they're assaulting the army. The perimeter which the army can protect is very limited. There's roughly 1,000 or so magical beasts who have invaded Bow City. Deng Kai of Hunter's Union is already commanding all of the hunter magicians to block off their route and kill the magical beasts in the city. Lin Yusin said, trembling, "Why are there suddenly so many magical beasts attacking Bow City?" Mo Fan was still having difficulty accepting this. Black Vatican, it's the handiwork of the people from the Black Vatican, Lin Yusin said. The Black Vatican? This wasn't Mo Fan's first time hearing of this organization. They manufactured the Violent Spring, a kind of medicine that could come off as a counterfeit underground holy spring. Its effects are entirely different from the underground holy spring, however. This kind of Violent Spring can arouse a magical beast's wild nature, causing them to basically lose control and go on a rampage. We currently do not know how Black Vatican was able to attract the magic wolf race to Bow City. However, they sprinkled the Violent Spring into the clouds and waited for a heavy rain to come so the Violent Spring could act as a dreadful catalyst, causing the entire magic wolf race to begin frenziedly assaulting Bow City, Lin Yusin told him. Back when Lin Yusin had discovered the Violent Spring waters, she had completely overlooked this point. Only when the calamity had descended did she abruptly come to a realization, causing her to break out in cold sweat. From how Lin Yusin saw it, this is something they had plotted for a long time. There was someone who wanted to use the population of magical beasts to thoroughly massacre Bow City. The only force who would do such a cruel thing was the Black Vatican. The what about now? Mo Fan asked as calmly as he could. The objectives of the Black Vatican is to completely destroy Bo City and have this place become hell on earth. The Darkwing Wolf is admittedly very strong, but it is not enough to turn all of Bo City into a slaughterhouse in just a day or two. However, if more magical beasts of the same class as the Darkwing Wolf appear, then even if our Bo City were to wait for reinforcements to arrive, there would practically be nothing left, Lin Yusin said with an ice-cold gaze. Mo Fan turned silent, extremely silent. Facing this calamity, he himself could only turn into someone who ran from this. There was nothing he could do. Mo Fan, you need to do two things now. 1. Protect the underground holy spring. Do not let it fall into anyone else's hand in any situation. I have a premonition that the Black Vatican urgently need to obtain the underground holy spring. Lin Yusin's expression was extremely serious as she looked at Mo Fan. And the second thing is, Mo Fan asked, do your best to survive the calamity this time. My identity is relatively sensitive. The people from the Black Vatican won't necessarily believe I have the underground holy spring on me. Thus, I will now deliberately attract their attention. What you need to do is to hide as long as possible with the underground holy spring and survive for as long as possible. Don't let the people from the Black Vatican find it, and definitely do not let it fall into their hands, Lin Yusin said. At this moment, Mo Fan had millions of F***K words firing past in his heart. Why are you putting this kind of hot thing into my hands? Lin Yusin saw there was some hesitation in Mo Fan. An agonized expression floated on her face, yet she did not say anything. Lin Yusin straightened her blood-stained white uniform, and then relentlessly chopped off her messy hair. Wearing the hat while possessing an heroic spirit, Lin Yusin had already began to stride toward the blood-stained city that was being overrun by magical beasts. As she was running, she emotionlessly called back to Mo Fan, I will draw away all the people from the Black Vatican. As long as you are not stupid, do not meet one yourself, and successfully get to the established safety area, then you will be fine. After saying this, Lin Yusin quickly disappeared into the drifting heavy rain. N/O/vel/b/in.c//om. In the midst of running, Lin Yusin didn't turn her head around to look back at him. She knew that not everyone had a heart of justice, but she believed that every person had something they would sacrifice their lives to protect. The sister she had depended on had become the first victim of this plot, and thus, the only thing left she could protect was the underground holy spring. Mo Fan stood there in amazement. Watching Lin Yusin's figure from afar, he had no idea about what to say. Unfortunately, Mo Fan wasn't given any time to think about it. From his location at the very back, he saw a group of something in the middle of running down the back mountain of Tian Lawn Magic High. Their bodies were incredibly robust. They easily knocked down several trees. They looked like a group of feral wolves that were rushing into a corral of sheep without fences. Their greed could be seen from their impatient speed. *T, the school also has magical beasts running around, and there's quite a few of them, too. The safety area was established by a collaboration of the Magic Association and Hunters Union. There were magicians and shelters for protection in there. It was roughly 3 kilometers from the mountain where Mo Fan was currently located. However, Mo Fan knew that he couldn't rely on his own strength to safely go through 3 kilometers of the city that were already crowded with numerous magical beasts. Although they don't have enough experience, they are still magicians. I have to retreat to the safety area with them, Mo Fan said to himself. If he was to encounter a magical beast, Mo Fan could simultaneously use lightning and fire elements. Although he couldn't completely kill it, it wouldn't kill him either. However, from how he saw it from his high location, it was clear that the one-eyed magic wolves weren't fighting by themselves. As long as 2 one-eyed magic wolves appeared, then Mo Fan would be unable to do anything. No matter what, let's first join with the students of the school. The power of a single person is too insignificant in this calamity, unless you are able to reach the same realm of head instructor, Jean Combe. Mo Fan quickly hurried toward Tian Lawn Magic High. At the bottom of this mountain, passing through a few old valleys, was the back door of Tianlan Magic High. What he was happy about was the fact that this part of the city hadn't been overrun by a large amount of magical beasts. The civilians nearby were all either hiding in their basements or escaping towards the safety shelters. The descent of calamity was too sudden. There was too many people who had been woken up from their beautiful dreams. As these people opened their eyes, they sank into the incomparably dreadful reality. The students were all in school today, putting in efforts for their once-in-a-lifetime Magic High exams. But they weren't prepared to face blood-spilling battles. Yet they had to welcome an unexpected blood calamity. The students who pissed their pants seeing magical beasts for the first time. Just how would they react to a city overrun by magical beasts? It was truly difficult to imagine. Retreat. You must hurry and retreat. This place is extremely unsafe. In the office, Shuem Mushing slapped the table with a righteous indignation. Principal Zhu and the other school directors were not present. The decision-making of the school was in the hands of the head disciplinary teacher, Chen Weiliang. However, Chen Weiliang persisted on having the students remain in school and form a defensive safety line with the teachers to resist the invasion of the magical beasts. Shuem Mushing didn't think this was right. Although the numbers of students and teachers were enough, once more magical beasts appeared, the school would be unable to protect itself. The truly strong magicians in Tianlan Magic High were currently running around in Bo City. The current students and teachers could only rely on themselves. Director, there are a large number of one-eyed magic wolves coming from the back of the mountain. Mr. Lan was torn into a corpse. Mr. Zhou's complexion was deathly white. The faces of the teachers in the office completely changed. The truth is, even if they were a mature magician, they had never encountered a calamity like this. Currently, the magical beasts were running amok in the city. They ate and shred anyone they saw. The teachers who didn't possess the ability to stand off against magical beasts were also so scared that their legs began to tremble. The school has no shelter. If dozens of magical beasts simultaneously appeared, we will definitely suffer a disaster. This is Blood Alert. During Blood Alert, only those who reach a safety shelter will have a hope to survive. Shuem Mushing roared hysterically. Did these teachers turn stupid from teaching magic? There were records on the Blood Alerts. These records told the later generations that they shouldn't be relying on their own strength to stand off against the magical beasts outside of the safety shelters. The survival rate didn't even reach 30%. The first and second year students were all on holidays, so they were home. The third year students were all called to the school for preparation of exams. Fortunately, the people at school this time were only third year students. All of these students have gone through the practicals and encountered a magical beast. Their magic foundations were very firm. If all of the 1,500 students and 100 or so teachers were to work together, then there was no way they couldn't reach the safety shelters. The safety shelters were only 3 kilometers away from the school. Retreat. All homeroom teachers will lead their own class. All of the teaching teachers are to be divided into their corresponding class based on their average. We must reach the safety shelter zone as a team. Chen Weiliang finally made his decision. The school had in total 1,700 people. If being outside of the safety shelter zone during a blood alert only gave a 30% survival rate, then that would mean continuing to stay within the school would cost 1,000 or more people their lives. How dreadful would that be? The teacher's execution during this time could be considered very fast. They quickly walked toward their own classrooms and had all of their students gather on campus grounds, preparing to leave. Not even 5 minutes after the decision was made, a wind teacher ran back to them while looking dejected and depressed as he told Chen Weiliang, "There's another 40 one-eyed magic wolves appearing in the back of the mountain. Retreat, hurry up and retreat. Have the practical teachers withstand them no matter what. Do not let any of these magical beasts enter the school." Chen Weiliang turned pale with fright. The wind teacher's face was filled with pain. 50 or so one-eyed magic wolves, and you're relying on just a few practical teachers to delay. How is that even possible? Shuem Mushing hurriedly ran toward his elite class. The strength of elite class was high. The other classes had plenty of students who were still unable to completely cast their magic spells. They said that they have the combat prowess of 1,500 magicians, but the truth was that there were only a few hundred people who were capable of facing magical beasts, and that was including those who were unable to cast magic when faced against magical beasts. Ed note. In other words, they're padding their own numbers and lying to themselves about how much they can fight. Just when he was about to enter the class, Mushing crashed into a very familiar student and was overjoyed over the unexpected good fortune. "Mo fan, how come it's you? I escaped here from the underground Holy Springs cell, and the school just happens to be close. Let's hurry and evacuate to the safety shelters, or else there will be more people dying." From the tone of the vice guard captain of the underground Holy Spring, the scariest part isn't the invasion of magical beasts. Mo fan gasped for breath as he answered Mushing. N/O/vel/b//jn.c//om. I also think that way. We are currently preparing to leave. Mushing solemnly nodded. That's good. This matter shouldn't be delayed. Let's quickly leave this place. I just came from Chishan Park. I saw there were numerous of one-eyed magic wolves in the back of our mountain. I don't know where they popped up from, Mo fan said. Really? In that case, we must evacuate even faster. Mushing was stunned from how Mo fan saw it. The scariest part of the current situation wasn't as simple as just 1,000 magical beasts invading Bo City. From Mo fan's previous location, he was able to see there were many magical beasts who had mysteriously appeared on the grounds. Other than one-eyed magic wolves, there were also colossal-eyed ape rats. This meant that hiding in the underground basements was also not safe. The underground is basically the home of the colossal-eyed ape rats. They would all be dug up and eaten. Brother Fan, it turns out to be you. Seeing you here is good. Zhang Xiaoho looked at Mo Fan as though he was looking at his own relatives. He was so emotional that his eyes nearly turned red. Recalling when they had encountered a magical beast for the first time, many people had lost consciousness from fear. Today, a large number of magical beasts were leaving behind corpses and bloodstains in the city which they lived in. There were not many who was able to stay calm. There was already many girls who were crying. For the students, all of this came too suddenly. It was too scary, and they had no idea on the circumstances regarding their own families. Seeing the entire class sunken into fear and despair, it made Mo Fan recall the earthquake, tsunami, and storm-like calamities from his former world. In front of natural disaster, humans really were tiny. Even forming a group to fend off magical beasts, these people were still helpless. Oh! A howl suddenly came from the basketball court in the back of the mountain. The student who was sitting closest to the window gazed down, feeling an absolute terror as he discovered an one-eyed magic wolf had jumped down from the hill. Its vigorous body ferociously stomped on the basketball court. The entire cement court was deeply crushed, immediately broken to bits. That one-eyed magic wolf's scarlet red, I slowly looked up as it gazed at the delicious students inside the classroom with an incomparable greed. With their own two eyes, they saw this hungry and greedy wolf, and simultaneous shrieks from girls came from the school building. "Ma! Ma! Magical beast!" The male student sitting next to the window, who was usually diligently studying, went completely pale. Compared to the spirit wolf from before, this one-eyed magic wolf's evil tendencies seemed even worse. Looking at it face to face caused their entire bodies to go numb. "Students, come with me. Wind magicians, go to the front and find us a path," Mushing hastily yelled out. The students closest to the window began to frantically escape to the corridor. However, there were a large number of students from other classes in the corridor. They crowded around the place as they all lost their rationality while shrieking. Shrieking, cries, and the yells of the teachers had resounded throughout the entire corridor. It was a situation where it was difficult for even teachers to control point one. Mo Fan was still standing in the corridor, cautiously watching those students who were frightened to death. His eyes displayed a bit of grief. They were just like a group of wild deer. As soon as a deer was frightened by a wolf, it would begin run away. Once all of the other deer saw this, they would also frantically try to escape. In reality, there was only one wolf, And as long as the deer stood united and raised their horns, a few more wild wolves would not necessarily be their match. This fear was contagious. Even M.O. Fan's former world was similar in this sense. Otherwise, how could so many shocking stampedes happen? The people in the classroom were all so scared that most of them took a step back. The skills they were taught on a daily basis had all disappeared in this moment. Lightning strike, mad whip. A chant was resounded from the classroom. M.O. Fan turned his head around and saw Su Zhaoding had made his move in anger. Traces of ferocious lightning emerged from the air. The traces of lightning frantically whipped toward the one-eyed magic wolf under the control of Su Zhaoding. Although the accuracy was somewhat lacking, there was still some lightning traces that hit the one-eyed magic wolf. The lightning arc pierced through and surged in turns. Every time it swept past the one-eyed magic wolf, it caused it to let out low howls of pain. The flesh of its body began to twitch beneath the might of the mad whip. Just an one-eyed magic wolf scared them all into dogs, a group of cowards. Su Zhaoding swept his gaze past the people who were lagging behind those who ran away, his gaze full of disdain. That's right, we have so many people. Why are we still scared of just a few one-eyed magic wolves? Wang Sanpeng also stood up. Just as he finished speaking, Wang Sanpeng used a short period of 3 seconds to finish his Earth Ripple spell. His pair of fat hands smacked onto the floor of the classroom. In an instant, a ripple circulated from the classroom all the way down to the cement campus grounds. The paralyzed one-eyed magic wolf was ferociously bumped into the other basketball hoop under the quick movements of Earth Ripple. Zhoumin could be considered to have some courage. She quickly finished her fire star path, and a ball of fire burst to emerge in her grasp. Taking advantage of the one-eyed magic wolf having fallen down, Zhoumin's fire burst quickly streaked across the flagpole of the school as it accurately hit the one-eyed magic wolf that was being pressed beneath the basketball pole. Fire burst. Burning Bone's might was naturally powerful. In an instant, it burned the backboard into ashes. The one-eyed magic wolf began to constantly howl under the fire as it rolled around the campus grounds. Soon enough, another few magicians with different elements began to cast their spells from different locations. Judging by the level of their spells, it was clear that it was some practical teachers who cast them. Under their cooperation, they quickly turned the rash, one-eyed magic wolf into a scorched carcass. Seeing the one-eyed magic wolf being quickly disposed of, M.O. Fan slightly let out a sigh of relief. It seems like not all of the people in school were a group of losers. Come over here, Shui Mushing said to the seemingly calm students who remained in the classroom. Su Zhaoding, Zhao Kunsen, Mu Bai, Zhoumin. These were the people who were able to directly face magical beasts back in practicals. It had been a year since then. Their fear toward magical beasts was no longer as deep as before. All of them came over. They didn't know why Shui Mushing had suddenly made them stay behind. Originally, this kind of responsibility should be carried by the teachers. However, there are sightings of large numbers of one-eyed magic wolves in the back mountains, and the strength of our teachers is limited. Now, we have no choice but to draw support from the strengths of you students, Shui Mushing said with a seriousness that no one had seen before. Teacher, let's not waste too much time in this kind of time. If you have something to say, hurry up and spill it. Wang Sanpeng couldn't help but speak up. We need a vanguard squad. I'm afraid the vanguard squad will mainly be comprised of students. The vanguard squad will be separated from the main group, practically independent. Furthermore, they have to walk ahead of the main group. The nearly 2,000 people from our school will follow the path opened by the vanguard squad. Your group has the strongest combat prowess amongst our entire school. You are definitely not inferior to any teacher. Thus, we hope you can form a vanguard squad that can show everyone the way to the safety shelters, Shui Mushing said. N/O/vel/b//and.c//om. As this was said, all of these students turned silent. For a few moments, they were unable to process this plan. The truth is, they themselves didn't know if they were able to fight against magical beasts after they separated themselves from the main group. Having them become the vanguard squad, the risk was indeed quite big. This decision is up to yourselves. We won't force you. If you aren't willing, Then I will go and find other students. We will just be delayed for a bit longer, and the danger will be a bit larger. This vanguard squad will be led by me. Please give me your response as soon as possible, all right? Shui Mushing said. Mrs. Shui, I'll join. Zhoumin had no hesitation. She took the initiative and joined the vanguard squad first. I will also join. Su Zhaoding also didn't ponder over it too much. Wang Sampang and Su Zhaoding were good friends. Since Su Zhaoding have already joined, he could only join with a bitter face. Shui Mushing slightly nodded. With a lightning magician here, the squad's combat prowess would be one level higher. They should be able to successfully arrive at the safety shelters. I will also join. Mu Bai and his henchman Zhao Kunsen glanced at each other, and then finally chose to join. Following this, an Earth Element student with an exceptionally good grade also joined. Zhang Xiaoho, however, left his gaze on Mo Fan. It seemed as though he was processing this plan. Brother Fan, are we following the main group, or are we choosing the Vanguard squad? Zhang Xiaoho asked. Let's join the Vanguard, Mo Fan replied. I didn't know that Brother Fan was also a man with high principles. Zhang Xiaoho was really able to find joy in sorrows. He was still able to make a joke in this kind of situation. Going with the main group is even more dangerous, Mo Fan said indifferently. Why? Zhang Xiaoho asked, puzzled. The main group had at least 1,700 people. With that kind of colossal number, even if they were to suffer the attacks of a group of magical beasts, they still wouldn't be in much danger. After all, the 1,700 people were practically magicians. You saw what just happened. With the appearance of a single one-eyed magic wolf, the entire floor panicked. That is the instinct of weaklings. Not only are they transmitting fear to each other, they're also able to magnify the fear infinitely. Thus, the main group's battle prowess will be limited. If I'm not wrong, then just 100 magical beasts will completely wipe out the main group. With such a large group of people walking, that is equivalent to easily attracting a group of magical beasts or even higher-level magical beasts. I don't want to be associated with a large group of sheep. When their time comes, whether they live or die is not something they are in control of, Mo Fan whispered to Zhang Xiaoho. After Zhang Xiaoho heard this, he looked at Mo Fan in surprise. He had never considered this point. Zhang Xiaoho himself was unable to distinguish whether what Mo Fan said was right or wrong. He just subconsciously believed in Mo Fan's choice. Zhang Xiaoho actually did not know that Mo Fan could be considered a hunter-magician with experience in hunting beasts. Being influenced by that kind of environment caused Mo Fan to understand one very important principle, and that was to never think a large number of people would equal being powerful. Why would the Hunters' Union only form smaller squads to go hunting beasts in the outside world? Could it be that they didn't know that the more people there were, the safer it was? The truth was, the more people there were, the easier it was for them to attract the attention of large numbers of magical beasts, and easier for them to become livestock for the higher-level magical beasts. The amount of people in the Vanguard squad couldn't be considered that many. If they were to meet a large number of magical beasts, they could most likely evade them. Their movements would be less restricted, and the decision to fight or escape could be made very quickly. However, if they were in the main group, if they didn't meet large numbers of magical beasts, then they were safe and sound. However, if they did attract the attention of a soldier-class creature and its group of magical beasts, then the main group would definitely get massacred. In this kind of massacre, your life would no longer be in your own control. The Vanguard squad had 10 people in total. Shui Mushing was in charge of it. After passing through the gate of the school, they were no longer able to see anyone on the streets. Trash was everywhere, with shattered goods from the vendor stalls being flipped over and stores with their doors wide open. Yet no one was watching. When the blood alert was sounded, all of the civilians either hid in their houses or they began to run toward the safety shelters with all their might, causing a complete mess. This was also the main reason why the people from the school were not able to retreat in time. However, there were still a large amount of people who hadn't retreated to the safety shelters. When Tianlong Magic High began to move toward the safety shelters, many of the civilians in the vicinity began to rush over. They wanted to use the strength of the students and teachers of Tianlong Magic High to safely pass through this 3 kilometers of dreadful street blocks. The vanguard squad was walking at the very front of the main group. Zhang Xiaohou moved to the top of a building and quickly saw this scene of civilians gathering toward the school. I'm afraid there'll be over 4,000 people in this move. In this area of the city, there are many people who didn't reach the safety shelters in time. They didn't dare to move by themselves, so now they're like iron dust on magnets as they constantly get absorbed into the main group from different locations. Zhang Xiaohou said to everyone after he jumped down from the old building. With more people, they should be able to prevent the attack of some smaller groups of magical beasts. However, they will also become a burden for the entire main group, Shui Mushing observed coolly. Magic high schools were different from magic universities. The students of magic universities had more battle prowess than regular army mages, but magic high schools nurtured groups of magic student apprentices who weren't even 18. A student able to protect themselves in this blood alert could already be considered good. Protecting a mass of people was really too far-fetched. This is also something we can't do anything about. It's not like we can throw them away and ignore them, Zhouman said. Let's go. Now that the main group has increased to 4,000 people, the burden on us has also increased, Shui Mushing said. Everyone nodded. Zhang Xiaohou, Zhang Yinglu, the two wind magicians are responsible for finding us a path. The others will closely follow behind. It was clear that Shui Mushing was a teacher who had gone through military training. He had some experience with deploying and troop formation, having some plans on what to do in this kind of situation. The movement of the 10 people could be considered rather quick. Passing through the main street after leaving the school gates and along the pedestrian lane, then going through the small area of houses with elevators would allow them to see the safety shelters. The main street was around 1 kilometer long and was completely blocked by abandoned cars. Let's not even talk about a school bus being able to pass through. Even a bike would have difficulty finding a smooth path. Vehicle traffic was basically blocked. They could only rely on walking to get there. 3 kilometers. It was far, yet not that far. It was short, yet not that short. Whether something would happen was out of their hands. There's a colossal-eyed ape rat in the book kiosk to the front. Zhang Yinglu's complexion was white as she ran back with gasping for breath. It is chewing on a child, Zhang Xiaohou added. By the time the two of them had discovered it, the child was already dead. But this kind of bloody scene had fallen into their eyes, sad and frightening. After continuing their advance, they moved past a big bus that was diagonally parked and blocking the street. They were able to see the book kiosk dyed by blood, and the 10 or so year old little boy that was laying in the pool of blood. N/O/vel/B//and .C///om. Where's the colossal-eyed ape rat? Shui Mushing creased his brow. He was looking around, but he couldn't even find the shadows of the colossal-eyed ape rat they were talking about. It was just Guga. Just when Zhang Yinglu was about to say something, a furred creature ferociously jumped out of the rear of a Volkswagen to the side, its 2 large incisors biting at Zhang Yinglu, who was caught completely unprepared. Zhang Yinglu was a very thin and weak girl. Her neck was torn out by the colossal-eyed ape rat in front of the stunned squad. Her life's blood began to spurt out all over the advertisements on the side of the bus. This scene was too sudden. Even Mr. Shui Mushing did not have any kind of preparation for it. He was standing right next to Zhang Yinglu as the blood from her neck splashed over his face. Hide in the bus, hurry! In the instant the stunning change happened, Mo Fan shouted at everyone. Everyone woke up from their daydreams as they staggered toward the bus. Shui Mushing's reaction could be considered quite fast. He pulled Zhang Yinglu along as he jumped into the bus. The dreadful colossal-eyed ape rat was going to continue its massacre, but had crashed into the doorway of the bus due to its body's shape. The other people were also somewhat frantic. They also hid themselves in a bus. As Su Zhaoding saw Zhang Yinglu being killed like that, he began to chant the power of lightning in his rage. Mo Fan originally wanted to link his star path also. However, the bee-seeking powder that he sprinkled had actually floated in different directions, causing him to suddenly realize something. Everyone, climb onto the bus. There is more than just a single colossal-eyed ape rat here, Mo Fan shouted. As he said this, Mo Fan interrupted Zhou Min, who was casting magic, dragging her toward the bus. Monkey, stop looking after Zhang Yinglu. She's already dead. Hurry up and draw that colossal-eyed ape rat away, or else we will all die here. Mo Fan ran as he yelled toward Zhang Xiaoho. Zhang Xiaoho could be considered the calm one. He had already cast his wind path during the attack of the colossal-eyed ape rat. Zhang Xiaoho wanted to go and save Zhang Yinglu. Unfortunately, what he did not know was that after the attack of a magical beast, there were not many primary magicians who were able to do much. Zhang Xiaoho's eyes began to redden. He blinked. The girl who had been in the same class as him had died just like that. This godforsaken magical beast. Wind track, flash steps. Zhang Xiaoho quickly attracted the attention of the colossal-eyed ape rat whose mouth was covered with blood. Using the second level of wind track, Zhang Xiaoho's figure nimbly passed through the chaotically parked cars. Whenever the colossal-eyed ape rat wanted to slice open Zhang Xiaoho's chest with his claws, he always ended up hitting the stream of air left behind by Zhang Xiaoho. Monkey, be careful. There's another one. Mo Fan already climbed on top of the bus. With one glance, he saw the figure with fierce fur arching its body as it hid itself behind the advertisement board by the bus stop. Zhang Xiaoho was moving in high speed as a large rat with fierce teeth was tenaciously pursuing him. How could he have the time to even consider the position of the other colossal-eyed ape rat? Mo Fan had used the beast-seeking powder to find the unexpectedly sly colossal-eyed ape rat. These magical beasts had always lived in an environment where the strong ate the weak. Their methods were much more savage than the humans who had been living safely in the city. Magicians who had not truly gone through hunting beasts would also get killed like Zhang Yinglu. Even being a wind magician, she did not know that she needed to have her wind track on at all times. Look, its neck is stretching, Zhoumin hastily said to Mo Fan as she saw the colossal-eyed ape rat that was behind the public transportation's advertisement board. As Mo Fan saw this, he began to curse to himself. Colossal-eyed ape rat's abilities were not just mere biting and scratching. Its most dreadful attack was the scarlet red beam that was shot from its eyes. That was a frightening power that was capable of penetrating a person's body. At this moment, the colossal-eyed ape rat's gaze was precisely locked on a Zhang Xiaoho. Dazzle blind! Just when Mo Fan was getting extremely anxious, Shuem Mushing yelled out as he carried an awe-inspiring power in his voice. Suddenly, a milky white light ball emerged in front of the colossal-eyed ape rat that was stretching its neck and emitted a bright radiance. This radiance was extremely fierce. The paint on the advertisement looked as though it was being melted by the heat of the light. The students inside the buses hastily closed their eyes, yet they were still able to feel the burn from the fierce light. The dazzling light exploded in front of the colossal-eyed ape rat. The fierce light was like the edge of swords as it entered the widened eye of the colossal-eyed ape rat. You could see the rat's cornea began to burn. Furthermore, it spread to the entire eye socket of the rat. The colossal-eyed ape rat, who was ready to use its scarlet red light beam, was burned blind by the light. It let out sounds of grief as it crashed into everything in its surroundings. At this time, Zhang Xiaoho finally realized there was one more colossal-eyed ape rat located by the bus stop's advertisement board. He quickly changed his position and shook off the monster that was chasing him before returning to everyone. Mr. Shui, thank you. Zhang Xiaoho panted. This dazzling light directly blinded a colossal-eyed ape rat that was a threat to everyone. As for the remaining rat, when they all had time to link their star paths, then this animal would no longer be able to hurt them. The first one to take action was Mo Fan. He was the one who finished his star path the fastest amongst them, and his third-level fire magic could be said as not giving the colossal-eyed ape rat any time to hide. An indignant rupturing flame grandly exploded in front of the colossal-eyed ape rat that had killed Zhang Yinglu. Beep, 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 beep. As it exploded, it instantly triggered the ear-piercing alarms of the cars. Numerous car windows were shattered beneath Mo Fan's fire burst rupture. The colossal-eyed ape rat was sent flying into the iron roll-up door of a milk tea store from the explosion. The fur on its body was burned to crisp. Its flesh was split. You could see the shattered pieces of windows were stabbed into its flesh and muscles. Shuem Mushing turned his head around and studied the fire-hurling Mo Fan who had hurt the colossal-eyed ape rat. Pleasant astonishment flashed in his eyes. It truly deserved to be called the third level of Fireburst. Its power had actually caused a magical beast to have difficulties getting back up. As long as this Vanguard squad had a powerful student like Mo Fan, then they probably wouldn't get completely wiped out. That freaking animal, I will skin it. Wang Sampang and Zhang Xiaoho appeared exceptionally angry. Just a few minutes before, that animal had bitten their female classmate to death. In just a few more days, she would have entered the beautiful magic university. However, she ended up being killed by this kind of ugly thing. Just who would be able to suppress the anger from the depths of their heart in this kind of situation? Don't go, it hasn't died yet. Mo Fan immediately berated them in a loud voice. Just as Wang Sampang was going to take revenge for Zhang Yinglu, the colossal-eyed ape rat who looked as though it was about to die suddenly jumped up, its killing incisors snapping toward Wang Sampang. Wang Sampang's complexion changed, and he subconsciously rolled to the side. The sharp incisor bit down, and bit off a bloody chunk from Wang Sampang's shoulder. As everyone saw this, they couldn't help but gasp. Animal, go die! Under the rage of Su Zhaoding, the lightning traces swirling around his body were like a lightning whip as they lashed toward the incredibly sly colossal-eyed ape rat. Lightning strike. Mad Whip's might could be considered quite ferocious. It mutilated the colossal-eyed ape rat further, and adding in the repeated electric arcs running through its body caused it to unable to budge. All it could do was lay on the ground and squeal in pain. Wang Sampang frantically crawled back to the bus. The blood flowed out from his shoulder. His face was deathly pale and filled with fear. Su Zhaoding, Zhou Min, and Zhang Shuhua continued to bombard the colossal-eyed ape rat with magic, smashing it into pieces. This time, the colossal-eyed ape rat could not be any more dead. However, everyone's faces didn't have a single sign of loosening up. So this was a genuine magical beast? It only took them a second to kill people. Even a speck of carelessness would send a magician's life to the underworld. It's good that you reminded us. Or else Wang Sampang would have ended up like Zhang Yinglu, Su Zhaoding said to Mo Fan in shock. Shui Mushing nodded repeatedly. Even he didn't imagine that the Vanguard squad he had formed with the strongest students would have someone dying and wounded on their first encounter with a magical beast. Mo Fan, you seem to have some deep understanding of magical beast characters. Why don't you take command of the squad? Me and he will be responsible for defense. He saying these kind of things in this kind of situation is excessive, but you saw with your own eyes how Zhang Yinglu was killed. This is not the time to squat on the floor trembling and crying for the lives of the past ones. Either way, could you please cast your water defensive spell when the next magical beast attacks any of us? Or else the remaining 9 of us may not be able to survive until the safety shelter, and the 4,000 or so people following behind us would also lose their direction from this point on. Shui Mushing walked over to Hiyu, who was so scared that her consciousness was distracted as he spoke quietly and sincerely. n/o/vel/b/jan.c//om. I'm sorry, I really am sorry. I am unable to finish the star path. Hiyu's face was filled with teardrops. She was really afraid. She was afraid that she would end up like Zhang Yinglu. Do your best. As long as you are able to cast a water barrier, then that would mean you are able to save our lives. I believe you can do it, Shui Mushing said. Mo Fan glanced at Hiyu, who was choking with emotions as she cried. He couldn't help but sigh. Xiaoko was also a water magician. She had also grasped the second level of water barrier. However, when facing a magical beast, Hiyu was no different from a normal girl and was unable to cast a spell. If the other people within the squad were like that, then there would be more people dying the next time they met magical beasts. At the moment, Mo Fan didn't know just how many would lose their lives. He could only force himself to advance along this road. Since Mr. Shui wants me to lead this squad, then I hope everyone will keep in mind what I said. We may not smoothly arrive at the safety shelters, but at the very least, we will be able to prevent unnecessary deaths. Mo Fan looked as though he had lost his spirit as he spoke to the Vanguard squad. This Vanguard squad had viewed the magical beasts as being too simple. The one in the practicals was just practice. Before the spirit wolf had gone berserk, It did not have any intention of killing the students. Genuine magical beasts were definitely not like this. They would use any and all methods to kill humans. Even if they knew that they would die, they would still use their last remaining strength to drag one more down with them. Magical beasts lived in an environment where they killed each other. They understood very well the techniques to kill others. The primary magical beasts which we will be facing are of two kinds: colossalide ape rats and one-eyed magic wolves. Colossalide ape rats can be considered easier to deal with. The scary ones are one-eyed magic wolves. Their cruelty and slyness is way above that of colossalide ape rats. If we happen to encounter 3 or more one-eyed magic wolves, then don't hesitate. Split up and escape by yourselves. If the luck is on our side, then only 3 of us will die. If we don't run, then everyone will die, Mo Fan said resolutely and decisively. The truth is, if 2 one-eyed magic wolves appeared at the same time, that'd be enough to bring a life-threatening blow to this vanguard squad. Currently, Mo Fan only wished to let his classmates understand that the dread of magical beasts was thousands of times scarier than what was described in the classes. This is no longer a practice, nor is this impractical. This is battle that involves life and death. If you win, you'll live. If you lose, you'll die. Su Zhaoding, Wang Sampeng, Zhoumin Mubai, Zhao Kunsen, Zhang Xiaoho, Hiyu, Zhang Shuhua, and Xue Mushing were all looking at Mo Fan attentively. The reminder Mo Fan had given them was to allow everyone to avoid casualties their first time. While they were attentively listening to him, they were also thinking to themselves, why is Mo Fan, a third-year high school student just like them, so much sharper than everyone else? Mo Fan told everyone the easier mistakes that could be made, just like the foolish action by Wang Sampeng. You should not approach any magical beast that looks like it is dead. It will use its last remaining strength to drag you down with it. Monkey, you're responsible for finding the path. Execute this cautiously, Mo Fan warned Zhang Xiaoho. Zhang Xiaoho nodded repeatedly. He would listen to everything Mo Fan said. Mubai, prepare your eyes spread at all times. Remember that your eyes spread is currently used to protect everyone. Don't count on freezing the faster magical beasts, Mo Fan said to Mubai. Mubai creased his brow. He wanted to say something, but he ended up swallowing those words back down. He had a huge prejudice against Mo Fan. However, compared to the lives of everyone, including his own, this kind of prejudice was indeed very insignificant. He nodded his head to show he understood how he should be using ice spread. After Mo Fan quickly explained things to everyone, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. In fact, he himself did not know whether they would be able to safely pass through this 3-kilometer-long road of death. He just hoped everyone's luck would be good and they would not encounter 3 one-eyed magic wolves at the same time. The squad continued to advance. They encountered no other magical beasts along this 1-kilometer-long main street. However, they did find a few old people who were unable to retreat to the safety shelters in time within the residential buildings. The vanguard squad was unable to escort any civilians. Xue Mushing could only tell these old people to follow the main group after they got here, or else they would really be in danger. Practically every road was blocked. Occasionally, they'd see some people who made a vain attempt to drive their cars to the safety shelters. In the end, they had to abandon their car along the blocked roads and switch to walking. Seeing the people on the road, Xue Mushing and Zhoumin would tell them to first find a place to hide and wait for the main group. After traversing the main street, they quickly arrived at the Mingyuan district. The Mingyuan district could be considered relatively higher end in Bo City, having buildings with elevators. The entire district was decorated like a small park in the city. The space it occupied was quite large. Passing through all 4 of the ABC districts of Mingyuan District would be nearly a kilometer of distance. NOV, L, B/JNN. No one knew how many people there were who hadn't retreated yet in the large number of buildings. They believed being into these tall buildings would keep them safe. The fences around the Mingyuan District were useless. Mo Fan could see a few of them broken down already. This meant there were definitely a few magical beasts inside this relatively large area. After passing through the back door of this area, a pond entered everyone's eyes. A security guard's body was floating there. and the water in the pond had also turned crimson red. The heavy rain had started to slow. This meant the bloodstains in this city were increasingly harder to clean. Seeing these bloodstains everywhere, the Vanguard squad all got goosebumps passing through this place. "Do you hear that? There's something yelling in this building," Zhou whispered to Mo Fan. Mo Fan walked toward one of the buildings. Through the glass, he was able to vaguely see a shadow that did not belong to a human pass by the window of the building. "Let's hurry up and move forwards." Mo Fan did not investigate further. Zhou nodded her head, no longer daring to say anything else. As they walked a few steps forward, their pathfinder, Zhang Xiaohou, who was searching for a way forwards, returned in haste. "There are more than 5 colossal-eyed ape rats ahead. We must go around," Zhang Xiaohou told them. "All right, let's use the other road," Mo Fan agreed as he patted Zhang Xiaohou's shoulders to show he did a good job. Zhang Xiaohou could only force a smile. If he did not force himself to grow in this kind of environment, then he would only become a burden for the squad. Zhang Xiaohou himself was also prone to panic. However, seeing Mo Fan still able to give a cool-headed response, he subconsciously felt a bit more brave. After going around the 5 rats, they had passed through half of the district. The entire process could be considered threatening, but not dangerous. "There's a colossal-eyed ape rat drinking by the swimming pool. We'll go around it. Why, we can clearly kill it and then directly pass by this place." Zhang Shuhua was puzzled. "Don't fight insignificant battles. Currently, our mana is more precious than water in a desert." The 9 of them safely passed through Mingyuan District. Considering that there was a large group following behind them, Mo Fan also chose a route that was relatively spacious and a more sensible, or they'd be congested and would attract an attack from a group of magical beasts, which would be dangerous. "Good. 1 more kilometer and we'll arrive safely," Shui Mushing said. Letting Mo Fan lead the squad was a sensible decision. This guy was even more experienced than the teacher. He used bee-seeking dust to predict the whereabouts of the beasts, diversion, and an instant kill with 0 casualties to pass through Mingyuan District. The number of magical beasts in Mingyuan District was far higher than the ones on the main street. Passing through safe and sound was indeed extremely fortunate. NOV.L.B//JNN. The concentration of magical beasts outside of the safety shelters is even higher. "Everyone, make sure to not let down your guard," Mo Fan reminded everyone. The last 1 kilometer was a very normal commercial and public entertainment district. There was no clear main street. The small alleys and roads were quite complex. This kind of place was very suitable for hiding from magical beasts. At the same time, it was very easy to get ambushed by magical beasts. The movement of the 9 people was actually very nimble, unlike the large main group, where even changing directions took large effort. "It seems like there are other magicians in the middle of a battle. Should we merge with them?" Zhang Xiao asked everyone as he stood at a high point. "They're too busy to take us into consideration. Let's continue walking," Mo Fan answered. Just when Zhang Xiaohou was about to jump down from the high point, he suddenly saw a big, fierce wolf head slowly stretching out from a bungalow. The barbed, tooth-like bones on its head were striking. Zhang Xiaohou widened his eyes, his breath nearly stopped in that moment. Heavens, that is at least a 3-story tall bungalow. That wolf head is still a bit higher than it. Just how big is the body of that creature? Is that still your average magical beast? "Zhang Xiaohou, what are you doing? Hurry up and come down," Wang Sampang called up to him. Zhang Xiaohou's entire being was completely shaken. He slowly moved his body to the corner before he gave everyone a shhhh gesture as he looked at them with unconcealable dismay. Just when Wang Sampang was about to say something, Mo Fan quickly covered the mouth of this freaking fatty. Shui Mushing seemed to have realized something as well. He hastily gestured to everyone to find a place to hide. The 8 people quickly hid at the corner of the wall. None of they dared to even breathe. Their expressions were stunned and frightened. "Who?" A deep breath came out from a place not too far away, and suddenly, a chaotic stream of air began to circulate along the ground. "Dong! Dong!" Heavy steps shook the ground. With every step it took forward, they could feel the entire building distinctly trembling. Zhang Xiaohou, who was hiding in the corner of the hallway, was like a puppet as he kept himself out of sight. He was almost as high as the huge wolf head. He could even feel that monster with 3 eyes sniffing in his direction. T, if this thing were to bite down, it could eat up all the people in this small room. Fortunately, the smell of garbage had concealed everyone's scent. Otherwise, with this monster's size, a claw slamming down would kill instantly. Dong! 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 The trembling sound of footsteps slowly grew more distant. The rigid expressions on the faces of the dumbstruck vanguard squad finally loosened up. Their hearts began to race viciously, beating so hard that they were unable to slow down. They didn't know just how far the creature had gone. Everyone had some lingering fears in their hearts as they remained still in their places, not daring to walk half a step. "Oh, who the hell can tell me what that was?" Wang Sampang asked with trembling lips as gazed into the distance after the distant head. Zhang Xiaoho nearly fell weakly to the floor. His calves couldn't stop shaking. Too scary. How could this world have such a scary creature? It was on a completely different level than the colossal-eyed ape rats and one-eyed magic wolves they had encountered before. A monster with a body like that, their magic probably would not even be able to wound it. It's warrior-class magical beast. A 3-eyed magic wolf, also known as bone-thorn fierce wolf. Its 3 eyes give it a 270-degree arc of vision. Its body is as sturdy as steel. Its bones are sharp and craggy. For us, this is simply a nightmare-level magical beast, Shui Mushing said with an incredibly gloomy voice. This isn't something we are capable of dealing with, Su Zhaoding said, his voice carrying a hint of despair. If an intermediate magician doesn't prepare in time, then they would also get killed by a single hit. We must leave behind a message informing the main group that there is a warrior-class creature here, or else it will cause colossal damage, Shui Mushing said. Everyone nodded. Mo Fan couldn't help but glance at the Silver Commerce Tower, now covered by the fog from the after-rain. A warrior-class bone-thorn fierce wolf was already at this level of scary. Then what about the commander-level Darkwing Wolf that was lying on the dome of the tower? Just how strong did a magician need to be able to contest against a creature like that? In front of that kind of magical beast, everyone was basically food awaiting slaughter. The heavy rain had stopped a while ago, but the mist had persisted through the city. A kilometer to the south of the safety shelters, a female magician wearing a blood-stained white uniform and dripping with sweat ran across a road. Behind her were 2 monsters that looked like pitch-black monkeys with abnormal bodies, in the process of ferociously pursuing her. They looked as though they were going to shred the attractive young woman into pieces. Wind disk. Tornado. The atmospheric pressure suddenly declined. The broken debris in the surroundings began to suddenly move and spin. The rotation became more and more intense, and soon enough, a colossal cyclone was visibly forming into a wind dragon as it charged and began to grow skywards. The cars that were parked on the sides were slowly leaving the ground. The street lamps were also being pulled out from their stands. The incredibly ugly, monkey-faced beasts that were chasing the magician emitted miserable shrieks before they were mercilessly drawn into the air. The fiercely rotating stream of air made them float like grass. Boom, boom, boom. The cars were crashing into each other. Metal fragments were everywhere. The 2 monsters were quickly turned into indistinct flesh fragments in the air, and what sprinkled down was a rain of scarlet-red fluids. A miserable death. After seeing this scene, Lin Yusin's face grew a withered smile. Her gaze carried a bit of celebration as she attentively looked at the other magician who had came just in time. "Mr. Yang, thank you," Lin Yusin said excitedly. "If I'm not seeing this wrong, then those must be the dark beast monsters which the Black Vatican loves ordering about," Yang Zhua has said with a solemn expression. "That is correct. The disaster this time was caused by them," Lin Yusin said with certainty. "I also guess that, unfortunately, we don't have any bit of preventive to let this bow city." Sigh. Yang Zhua's expression was filled with grief. This blood alert was really unforeseen. There was no way of knowing how many people had already died. "I suffered from an attack when I was protecting the underground holy spring. Their objective seems to be the underground holy spring," Lin Yusin told him. We already know that they specifically wanted me to find you just so I could ensure the safety of the underground holy spring. As for the underground holy spring, you didn't give it to them, did you? Yang Zhua said. Lin Yusin shook her head. They had me surrounded. However, after they realized the underground holy spring wasn't on my body, they flew into a rage and wanted to kill me. I used a group of scattered, one-eyed magic wolves to escape from them. You're very clever. If that's the case, where is the underground holy spring now? Yang Zhua continued asking. I gave it to the student who was cultivating inside the underground holy spring. I believe placing it with him was much safer than carrying it myself, Lin Yusin explained. Are you talking about Mo Fan, the kid with an innate dual element? Yang Zhua asked with an astonished look.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.